Chapter 186. Bullshit. You've crushed my roots, give me back my roots. Xianxia had a malevolent look on his face. Just as he was about to charge forward, he was stopped by an invisible force. At the side, Marquis Ing heaved a huge sigh of relief. Seemed like this was truly an accident. The blue veins on Ing Jingshan's forehead bulged a few times. This was truly the misfortune of the clan. One last question, was this incident an accident, or was it instigated by someone? Ing Jingshan questioned coldly. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi seemed to have a telepathic connection. Shuang cast a glance at Ing Ho, who was at the side, and then immediately retracted her gaze. This action was very fast. Ordinary people might not be able to detect it, but the people sitting here were all powerful figures. How could they not notice this trick? Everyone looked towards Ing Ho, and Ing Ho was completely stupefied. What do you all mean by looking at me like that? Baby. Xianxia had been guessing all along. He had never confirmed it, and he didn't want to confirm it either. After all, he was his big brother. But when he saw their gazes, his entire person froze. His gaze gradually turned to his elder brother, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Ing Ho, I'm going to kill you. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi snickered in their hearts. To be able to make the two of you kill each other so effortlessly, this is truly too fun. Marquis Ing came to his senses and said angrily, "Are you crazy? They are obviously framing us, trying to make us fight amongst ourselves." Zizi and Big Sister really don't know him, Yi Zizi said while choking with sobs. She seemed to be very scared, as if she was being threatened. A child's words were very lethal, let alone a cute little loli. However, this kind of supplement was like a stab to Ing Ho's back, causing him to be enraged. "I'll kill you two bitches." After saying that, Marquis Ing attacked. Upon seeing the situation, Qin Yutong immediately protected Yi Zizi. If no one is going to make a move, then prepare to counterattack. In any case, I have already played enough. But how could no one do anything in such a situation? Ing Xiang and Ing Shang took the opportunity to stand in front of Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, forcing Ing Ho to retreat. Ing Shang said in a deep voice, "Nephew Ho, it's not good to silence them." Third uncle. These two demonesses were bewitching people with their words. We can't let him live. At this moment, Marquis Ing was also flustered. If he acted rashly, wouldn't that be the same as admitting to it? Big brother. It really is you. From today onwards, we are no longer brothers. Xianxia raised his hand and made a vow. From now on, he cut off all ties with Ing Hui, leaving only hatred. Ing Jingshan clenched his fists tightly. If possible, he really didn't want them to appear. Harming others and oneself. Speak, you don't have to be afraid. Ing Jingshan shouted. Qin Yutong hugged onto Yi Zizi, and the two of them shivered, seeming like they didn't dare to speak. If this matter was confirmed, it would be a great opportunity for Ing Xiang and Ing Shang. Young ladies, don't be afraid. With me, Ing Xiang, here no one will dare to hurt you. You just need to tell me the truth, Ing Shang said with a smile. As an adult, Qin Yutong definitely can't speak carelessly. Right now, as long as I act well, they will definitely start fighting. At this time it was Yi Zizi's turn. Really? Yi Zizi asked curiously with her eyes wide open. No one would question a frightened little loli's desire to live. Of course it's true. Ing Xiang smiled amiably. Ing Jingshan, who was sitting on the main seat, appeared very solemn. Two unfilial sons. Both ruined in the hands of a woman. Yi Zizi wiped away her tears. This action of hers was too pitiful. Then pointing at Ing Ho, she said, "This uncle gave Big Sister a large sum of money to let us dress sexily at the bar at night." "That's all?" Ing Xiang asked. Yi Zizi shook her head. "That's all." Everyone's expression changed greatly. This is a scheme that has a brain. Needless to say, the person who is able to come up with such a scheme is this eldest young master. Ing Xiang sneered, "Big brother, you have taught a good son. If this kind of matter were to spread out, where would our Ing family's face be?" Ing Shang walked back and forth, slowly explaining the scheme to everyone. Nephew Kong would normally go to the bar at Three Seasons Hotel when he goes out. You calculated that on that night little brother would be happy and go out to drink, so you used money to bribe the two young ladies. Because you are very clear of little brother's character, he would definitely let the two young ladies accompany him to drink. The mission of the two young ladies was actually only an open scheme. They were only covering for that waiter. Following Ying Shang's explanation, everyone fell into contemplation. There is nothing wrong with this. However, Ying Ho's expression became even more gloomy. Ying Shang continued, the people who went out to investigate discovered that everything about that waiter was fake, and that waiter disappeared on that very night. If my guess is correct, the one who did it should be that waiter. However, the two young ladies are benevolent, so of course they also made a huge mistake. As for why Lu Bai was controlled, there is no need for me to say much, right? Lu Bai suddenly looked at Ying Ho. What a vicious man. However, Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi were laughing so hard in their hearts. Benevolent. This phrase is so professional, I didn't expect that you would be able to see through it. The entire hall was filled with an oppressive aura. Ying family's biggest taboo was to harm one's own brothers. Even if it was a power struggle, one's life must not be harmed. However, all of the family members were hoping that Ying Ho's crime would be confirmed. That way, the position of the family master would be vacant. As for why I didn't kill him, it should be because nephew Kong didn't want to do that. After all, he is a blood brother, and furthermore, killing him is even more ruthless than killing him. After finished speaking, Ying Shang's aura suddenly erupted as he shouted loudly, "Am I right? Bullshit. I just wanted to kill him." The entire hall was silent. Ying Shang's aura that suddenly erupted was to attack Ying Ho's willpower. Ying Shang's strength was also stronger than Ying Ho's, and as expected, Ying Ho, who was caught off guard, lost his judgment for a short period of time, causing Ying Ho to speak the truth. However, the truth was indeed frightening enough. He actually dared to kill his younger brother. Ying Xiang said gravely, seems like that waiter's mission was to kill nephew Kong, and those two girls had indirectly saved nephew Kang's life. Right now, even Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi were stupefied. This plot seems to have been extended infinitely. This is really a case of brothers killing each other. This is so awesome. This is much more entertaining than a TV drama. Who is it? Why aren't you quickly thanking us? If it wasn't for us, it would not be possible for you to be standing here right now. However, Qin Yutong thought to herself, from the looks of it, Zhu Yi seems to have an affair with this man. This is a bit interesting. I reckon that this Zhu Yi has an even bigger secret that I can slowly unravel. Ying Jingshan's head was buzzing. His eldest son was actually jealous to the point of killing his younger brother. If it wasn't for a freak combination of factors, his youngest son would have already lost his life. Big brother, we are also very sad that something like this happened, but without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Ying Xiang said, not giving any face to Ying Jingshan at all. In actuality, for a family like Ying Jingshan's, if they were to be slightly caught by others, they would definitely die without a complete corpse. Chapter 187. Although these two women were talking nonsense, he really wanted to kill them. The funny thing was that he had been tricked. He was really stupid. Ying Kongshi knelt in front of his father and said furiously, "Father, Marquis Ying has violated the family rules. Father, please punish him accordingly." Hearing Ying Kongshi's words, all the clan members stood up and cupped their hands. Clan head, please punish them according to the clan rules. Marquis Ying knew what the outcome would be. Rather than waiting for death, he might as well run. Marquis Ying instantly dashed out. This kind of thinking was really stupid. But given the current situation, there was nothing he could do. The clan members easily grabbed onto Ying Ho, then kneeled beside Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi. Ying Ho glared angrily at the two women beside him. Yi Zizi suddenly made a face at Ying Ho and said, Lu. This time around, Marquis Ying was completely enraged. He wanted to get rid of these two women with all his might. However, the result was self-evident, and it was even more certain that it was the truth. I'll kill you all. I'm going to kill you. Marquis Ying's face twisted, and his eyes revealed an ominous glint as he roared at the two women beside him. Ying Jingshan maintained his silence. How could he not feel pain in his heart? A single sentence from the Empress had actually caused the brothers of the Ying family to turn on each other, and the clan members had even wanted him to kill his son for the sake of the position of clan head. How ironic. The greatest irony. One day ago, the clan members were mad with jealousy. The eldest son had become the clan leader, and the youngest son was married to the Empress. How glorious was that? However, one day later, the youngest son had been trampled to death, and the eldest son even wanted to kill his younger brother. This was a great humiliation. Such a turn of events surprised the clan members, but they also found it funny. This was a rare opportunity. In fact, the culprit is sitting in the hall. It's just that you're blind. However, it had to be said that Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi had truly saved Ing Kongshi's life. Otherwise, Jiu Yi would have definitely poisoned Ing Kongshi. Ho Kong. Yu He, who was weak, could be seen running in from outside of the door, and when she saw her two sons kneeling on the ground, tears immediately flowed down like rain. What are you all doing? Get up, all of you. What misunderstanding can't be solved? Yuha shouted painfully. Ing Xiang said faintly, Sister-in-law, your eldest son wants to kill his younger brother. This is a violation of the family rules. What? Impossible. How could Hoer kill Kong? This is impossible, Ho. Tell me. Yuha shook her son. Her voice was hoarse. She had cried for a long time because of her youngest son. But now she was told that her eldest son wanted to kill her younger brother. It was like a bolt from the blue. Kneeling on the ground, Marquis Ying was too ashamed to face his mother. He lowered his head and refused to answer. Yuha ran to her youngest son and cried, Konga, you listen to me the most. How could your brother want to kill you? There must be a misunderstanding. Quickly plead for your father. Ing Kongshi didn't look at his mother. Instead, he lowered his head and said in a deep voice, Marquis Ying got what he deserved. He will be punished according to the family rules. Yuha sat paralyzed on the ground in disbelief. The elder brother wanted to kill the younger brother, and the younger brother even wanted to punish the elder brother according to the family law. But how could a good family change like this in one day? Jingshan, quickly say something. You can't kill Ho, he's our child. Yuha knelt in front of her husband and begged. No one said anything because the outcome had been decided. Hearing his wife's pleading, how could Jingshan not want to save her? But sitting in his current position, how could he save her? What could he use to save her? Jingshan, I beg of you, if you want to kill Ho, then let me die in place of my son. In the end, Yuha didn't do anything wrong. She only wanted to save her child. However, marrying into this kind of family, one would be able to enjoy the comfort brought by power, but at the same time one would also lose a lot. Mom. Hearing her eldest son's call, Yuha, who was begging, felt her heart shatter. In Ing family, different from the secular world, there were rules for how one should address someone. This was the first time she heard her son calling her mom. Yuha came to the front of her eldest son and held onto his hand. Mom will save you, don't worry. Men don't cry easily. This was the education that Marquis Ying had received. Right now both of his eyes were red, but he didn't cry. Mom, your son will call you mom for the last time. Don't beg anymore. Marquis Ying Jingshan naturally knew that all of his pleading was already useless. Looking at his mother's screams, his heart felt like it was being sliced into pieces. This might be the punishment for me, right? What they said was right. I wanted to kill my younger brother. I deserve it. Forget about your son. Your son is unfilial, unable to bring you face. I have let down the ancestors of Ing family. Please accept 3 kowtows from your son. Thank mom for raising me. Marquis Ying Jingshan could be seen opening his mother's hands, then moving backwards a bit, bowing to his mother. Bang! Marquis Ying Jingshan's forehead fiercely knocked onto the ground. The hard stone on the ground immediately cracked, and the entire hall shook for a bit. Bang! The hard stone was unable to withstand the force and actually collapsed, and the cracks spread out endlessly. Bang! A small pit was forcefully created on the ground, and right now Marquis Ying Jingshan's entire face was covered with blood. Even Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, who were at the side, were stupefied. They completely didn't expect Marquis Ying Jingshan to do such a thing. Mom, go back, just treat it as if you don't have this son. Looking at her son whose face was covered with blood, Yuha felt as if her heart was being pierced by a knife. She hugged her son in her embrace, just like when he was young. Mom won't leave, mom will accompany you. Marquis Ying Jingshan let out a deep breath, enjoying the last bit of warmth. Soon after, he lightly caressed his mother's forehead, letting her gradually fall asleep. The maid very quickly carried the unconscious Yuha away, and the entire hall once again became quiet. Right now, Ing Kongshi was still kneeling in front of his father, his head lowered as he begged, not having the slightest intention of asking for forgiveness. Ing Jingshan said gravely, Marting, violating the family rules, harming your own brother, you will be sentenced to Heavy Dust Cave. Hearing such a declaration, the relatives of the clan let out a sigh of relief. As long as one entered Heavy Dust Cave, it would be impossible for them to come out. However, when Ing Kongsha heard such a sentence, he finally felt that the situation was balanced. Hearing his father's sentence, Marquis Ing Jingshan did not reveal too much of an expression. On the other hand, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were both curious about what kind of place this heavy dust cave was. As for the two of you, Ing Jingshan immediately glared at Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi. If the two of them did not appear, such a thing would not have happened. Not knowing the severity of your attack, causing Ing family's offspring to be infertile, you will be sentenced to heavy dust cave. Towards this kind of punishment, everyone felt that it was meaningless. Although the two ladies had saved Ing Kongsha's life, they had also trampled on his life, and the punishment naturally could not be offset. However, the punishment of being sent to heavy dust cave was indeed a little heavy, so it would be better to just straightforwardly behead them. Ing Jingshan had nowhere to vent his anger, and Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi could only be said to be innocent bystanders. However, other than being frightened, the two of them were also curious about heavy dust cave, and wanted to go and see what exactly was inside. The two of them appeared to be very fearful and at the same time respectful. Chapter 188. Something like being sent into the heavy dust cavern was a huge matter for the entire Ing family. All of the members of the Ing family were present, including the guards. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi curiously looked at that family head who was praying to the heavens. It seemed like only by praying to the heavens would he be able to be at ease. Sister Qing, are you afraid? If you are, let's charge out right now, Yi Zizi whispered. Qing Yutong muttered, don't, let's go in and see what it is. That's what I was thinking too. Yi Zizi was now incomparably curious about heavy dust cave. Was there a big monster inside? I really like fighting monsters. This heavy dust cavern was located at the back of the island. From the outside, this cavern seemed to extend to the bottom of the sea. From time to time, a chilling aura would seep out from within, making people shiver. After the worshipping ceremony ended, Ing Jingshan took one last look at his son. Then he turned around and shouted, "Enter the cave." The guards escorted the three of them towards the heavy dust cavern. When Ing Ho passed by his younger brother, he said in a low voice, "Take good care of Mom." Ing Kongsha coldly looked at his elder brother who wanted to kill him and did not say anything. The guard urged in a low voice, and the three of them slowly walked into the heavy dust cave. Immediately, cold air assaulted them and the temperature instantly dropped below zero. Since he had already walked in, there was no need for him to continue acting. Ah, so fun. Yi Zizi swung the teddy bear in her hand and skipped down the seemingly bottomless staircase. Zizi, slow down a bit, don't fall, Qing Yutong warned. Yi Zizi ran over again and smiled sweetly. I know. The two of them glanced at Ing Ho, who was standing silently at the side. They felt that this was a very strange situation. This was a good opportunity for them to kill someone. After a long time, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi finally couldn't endure the fire of gossip in their hearts anymore. Hey, why didn't you kill us? Qing Yutong asked curiously, and Yi Zizi waited for the other party's reply. Ing Ho, whose face was covered in blood, laughed coldly. Being killed by me is too easy for you. Being killed by Zhou Xian is the most painful. Why should I make a move and let you die so easily? What is this heavy dust? You guys seem to be very afraid of it. Yi Zizi asked curiously. She hugged little Teddy with both her hands and her face was filled with questions. Ing Ho snorted coldly, mocking their ignorance. Heavy dust is an ancient ferocious beast. It's incomparably cruel and has been suppressed by the Ing family for thousands of years. Yi Zizi waved her little hand and exclaimed, wow, an ancient ferocious beast. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Your sister has already gone crazy. Ing Ho laughed. Qing Yutong spread out her hands. I haven't even seen what an ancient beast looks like yet. In actuality, she had even eaten the meat of a prehistoric beast before. And even though she ate the meat of an ancient ferocious beast, it was still not as good as a prehistoric beast. After a while, the three of them reached the end of the staircase. It seemed quite spacious, but it was pitch black. Moreover, it was incredibly cold and gave off a powerful might. Ing Ho sighed deeply. I'll wait for you on the other side. With that, he walked into the darkness. Roar. Ha. A roar sounded out, and within the roar there was even Ing Ho's counterattack. However, not even a second later, the entire world once again became silent, and Qing Yutong could even hear the faint sound of chewing. Yi Zizi shook her head. You could have lived, but you chose to die. Even if you waited there for a lifetime, you wouldn't be able to see me. Qing Yutong smiled, then took out a stone from the system and threw it towards the sky. The stone was instantly illuminated. The two of them saw what the so-called heavy dust looked like. It had a lion's head and a crocodile's body. It seems that this is a hybrid product. This is the ugliest and weakest ancient beast that I have ever seen. Yi Zizi muttered. This is truly an eyesore. I didn't expect that an ancient beast would actually be this ugly. Qing Yutong couldn't bear to look on anymore. The two of them indeed had good taste in aesthetics. Heavy dust was actually quite awe-inspiring. Its body length was close to 300 meters, and when it stood up it was roughly 10 floors tall. The fur below its neck was like golden thorns that were incomparably sharp. The defense of the scales on its body was extremely high, and wanting to break through its defense was not an easy task. The main point was its 4 huge claws that were flickering with a cold light. In front of heavy dust, Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were just like a black dot, and they seemed so insignificant. Heavy dust could be seen slowly crawling over, and every time it moved the entire cave would tremble. Ancient beasts all have intelligence, and these two weak humans actually dared to ignore this beast and even turned their faces to the side. Don't think that just because you two look good this beast will spare your life. Roar. Heavy dust let out a loud roar and its aura soared into the sky. This is definitely a move that is used to scare little kids. Even Ying family who was outside of the cave heard heavy dust's roar, and apart from being shocked, they also sighed in admiration. Unexpectedly, an even louder roar rang out from within the cave, and a berserk aura swept out from within the cave, causing the altar to collapse. Xiang said gravely, "This heavy dust has become a bit more powerful. What kind of joke is this? That roar just now was Yi Zizi's. When it comes to roaring, Yi Zizi has never been afraid of roaring before." However, heavy dust, who was still awe-inspiring just a moment ago, was actually hiding at the corner of the cave and shivering. Just like an injured kitten, heavy dust buried its head into its chest. In actuality, Qing Yutong was also quite frightened by Yi Zizi's roar. Yi Zizi's ability is not ordinary, and that lowly voice of hers couldn't have turned on a voice changer, right? Right, you guessed it right. La, it's time for Ultraman to beat up little monsters. Yi Zizi waved the teddy bear in her hand and bounced over to the front of heavy dust, then stretched out her leg and kicked onto heavy dust's sharp claws. "Big sister Qing, quickly come over. This beast is actually painted with black nail polish, so coquettish." "Heavy dust, you are lying. These are all natural black nails, okay? Don't think that just because you are powerful you can slander a good beast." Qing Yutong walked over, then let out a breath and said, "Black nail polish doesn't look good. How about we paint it red?" "Sure, Zizi likes red." Heavy dust's heart was filled with despair. While speaking, the two really started painting their nails, and they were definitely not joking. "What are you being shy for? Put down your nails a bit, you won't even be able to paint it. That claw over there, you are acting like a little girl, you really haven't seen the world yet." Heavy dust. Under Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi's ridicule, heavy dust wished that he could die from despair. "They are simply inhumane, painting the sharp claws that I am most proud of into a dazzling red color, and even made me wear contact lenses. I really want to die." Qing Yutong clapped her hands. "Zizi, do you feel that it is prettier?" Looking at heavy dust, who had a wronged look on his face, Yi Zizi hugged onto the teddy bear and said, "Won't you know after taking a look?" "Hee, that makes sense. Zizi is really smart. Quickly give big sister a kiss." After speaking, heavy dust hugged onto Yi Zizi and fiercely kissed onto her. Big sister Qing, you salivating monster." Heavy dust buried his head. "I'm still a child." Chapter 189. Heavy dust, who was originally lying motionlessly on the ground, slowly stood up. His gaze was no longer filled with despair. Instead, he wanted others to feel despair. The humiliation he had suffered here would be returned by others. The heavy dust drilled up the stairs like a machine. Countless rocks rolled down one after another. The entire cave was about to collapse. Just now, when Qing Yutong undid the seal, her motive was very simple, and that was to let heavy dust out to play. After being locked up for such a long time, heavy dust's intelligence would soon become retarded. "Sister Qing, let's go up and play." "All right." The two of them held hands and followed behind heavy dust. From time to time, Yi Zizi's sweet laughter could be heard. However, this laughter made one's hair stand on end. At this time, the people of Ying family were sitting in the main hall, discussing about the next clan head candidate. Jingshan was furious in his heart. His son had just died and they couldn't wait to choose the next clan head. Suddenly, the entire hall began trembling, and the faces of the Ying family immediately turned pale with fright. This aura, heavy dust. Shang couldn't believe his eyes. How could heavy dust have escaped? The entire island was shaking as if there was an earthquake, and the heavy dust emitted a baleful aura that struck fear into the hearts of all who smelled it. Jingshan did not have the slightest bit of hesitation as he shouted in a deep voice, "Activate all of Ying family's ancient godly items. We must continue to seal heavy dust and not let it escape." In the face of danger, the entire Ying family was united. Otherwise, they wouldn't have become one of the three giants. When heavy dust broke through the hole, it immediately roared towards the sky, as if it was telling the people of the world that their time of death had come. It was going to use its red claws to crush them. With every step he took, Ying family's luxurious building would turn into an Oreo. He didn't even know if there was anyone under his foot. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi slowly walked out, and looking at the moonlight in the sky, Qin Yutong stretched their waist. "Big sister Qing, hug me, I'm tired." Yi Zizi stretched out her arms, indicating that she did not want to move anymore. Qin Yutong carried Yi Zizi up. Let's go and watch the big monster fight against Ultraman." "Right, what time is it? If big cousin finishes taking the wedding photos and finds out that we're not there, then we're finished." Qin Yutong took a look at the sky. "I didn't bring my phone with me, and looking at the sky, it should still be early." "Big sister Qing, remember what you said? Little fellow, you only know how to shift the blame to others." Qin Yutong pinched onto Yi Zizi's little nose, causing the latter to laugh heartily. At this moment, heavy dust was like a war machine. Half of the Ying family's buildings had been razed to the ground, and everyone in the Ying family started to attack heavy dust. The weapons in their hands flashed with all sorts of colors, and anyone could tell that they were cheap weapons. "Big brother, this heavy dust is very strange, it seems to be very violent." Shang held a long spear in his hand. The long spear was black in color and was surrounded by lightning. Ancient godly item. At this moment, Xiang had also flown over. He was holding a large blade in his hand. It looked very much like the green dragon crescent blade, but the blade was yellow in color. It was another ancient godly item. The thing that the three great magnates lacked the least was ancient godly equipment. "Big brother, why did heavy dust's sharp claws turn red? This is a bit strange." Jingshan also felt that it was strange. Why did it feel like those sharp claws were painted with nail polish? "Alright, let's not talk anymore. Let's subdue heavy dust and seal him again." Yes. The orders of the patriarch could not be disobeyed. Rules were rules, and no one could override the rules of the Ying family. Yi Zizi, who was nestled in Qin Yutong's embrace, pouted her mouth. The little fellow doesn't seem to be a match for them. And the weapons in their hands are very powerful. Qin Yutong said. The two hid at a remote place and watched the battle. "I didn't expect that Ying family's foundation would be this powerful. If they were to be given a bit more time, they would be able to seal heavy dust once again." The two watched the battle for another 10 minutes, and heavy dust was already on the verge of collapse. Facing against Ying family's frenzied attacks, heavy dust was unable to hold on any longer. They are too much of a bully, a few thousand people against one. In actuality, Qin Yutong hated those people very much. Comparatively speaking, that Ying Ho could still be counted as a man. Yi Zizi snorted. "Big sister Qing, let's go and help those little monsters, they are too pitiful." "Alright, let's let them experience what true despair is." Qin Yutong loosened up her muscles and bones. "I can finally have a big battle." Just as the two were preparing to enter the battlefield, Yi Zizi's expression changed. "Big sister Qing. Wait. Don't go." Yi Zizi retracted her usual smile and shouted out sternly. Qin Yutong turned her head around and asked curiously, "What happened, Zizi? Big brother is here." Yi Zizi's face collapsed as she thought about where she should hide. Brother-in-law is here." Qin Yutong also got a fright, and she felt that her butt was a bit painful. "Hide." The two immediately understood each other's gaze and hid. Half an hour ago, Yi Hua, who was in the bridal dress store, felt that his body and mind were exhausted. "I might as well just fight with Yi Zizi." Thinking about how there is still a whole day of filming tomorrow, Yi Hua felt that the sky was pressing down on him, and a feeling of powerlessness welled up within him. Facing something like this, so what if I am strong? Sometimes I really want to go back to the past and be a little skeleton that is always in fear, sigh. Xianxia, who was wearing a pure white wedding dress, walked over. Looking at Yi Hua, who had a bitter look on his face, Xianxia laughed in her heart. All right, don't be angry anymore, I will give you a massage when we get back. Don't think that I will be able to calm down just by saying a few nice words. Yi Hua said gravely. Today I have changed at least 10 sets of clothes, and right now I am even wearing a bright red suit, even my leather shoes and socks are red in color. Do you think that I am a male prostitute? Xianxia could be seen walking to Yi Hua's side, then bending down and lightly kissing onto Yi Hua's cheek. Is this okay? The boy who was dragging the wedding dress behind Xianxia was stupefied. This woman in front of me is so beautiful, yet she is actually trying to curry favor with a man, and even took the initiative to give him a kiss. Needless to say, this man's family has a mine and a lot of mine. Yi Hua pursed his lips. Xianxia actually took the initiative, I have taught her quite well. Quickly change your clothes and go back. Yi Hua said petulantly. Xianxia stretched out her index finger and hooked onto Yi Hua's chin, then blinked her beautiful eyes and said sweetly, little darling, wait for me. Yi Hua looked blankly at Xianxia, who was leaving. This woman is really makes me. Yi Hua doesn't even know how to describe what he is feeling right now. She actually dares to take liberties with me. Later on, when we get back, just wait and see how I will take care of you. Although that was what he said, the corner of Yi Hua's mouth was still quite honest. Suddenly, Yi Hua seemed to have heard a light roar, causing Yi Hua to be very curious. Who is walking a ferocious beast in the middle of the night? It was normal for Yi Hua to be able to hear heavy dust's roar. After all, heavy dust was not very far away from Yi Hua. Adding on to the excitement of heavy dust breaking out from the ground, heavy dust's roar was very loud, and thus heavy dust's roar was transmitted into Yi Hua's ears. Of course, other people would not be able to hear heavy dust's roar. Even if Xiao Yi was called over, Xiao Yi would not be able to hear heavy dust's roar. Chapter 190. Opening the window, Yi Hua looked towards the pitch-black ocean. From that direction he could still sense the existence of Yi Zizi. As expected, she is looking for something to do, and there are quite a lot of people in the ocean. After pondering for a while, Yi Hua decided to call Wei Chong and Lai Gu over for a meeting. Arriving at the toilet, Yi Hua closed the door and began summoning his two subordinates. Wei Chong and Lai Gu instantly arrived. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Yi Hua said faintly, stop kneeling, the floor is dirty. Wei Chong and Lai Gu heaved a sigh of relief. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your understanding. When Wei Chong and Lai Gu raised their heads and saw his honor, who was dressed entirely in red, Wei Chong and Lai Gu were both stupefied. His honor had always been dressed in black, and for his honor to suddenly be dressed entirely in red, it truly feels very awkward. I am currently thinking about a problem, and I wish to hear your opinions. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and said faintly. What? He came to take the exam in the middle of the night. Wei Chong and Lai Gu immediately pricked up their ears to listen. Zizi is currently causing trouble in a certain power, and I, the Supreme Overlord, want to take this opportunity to subdue him. What do you all think? Yi Hua let out a mouthful of smoke and said. Lai Gu secretly pulled Wei Chong. Aren't you very good at this kind of problem? Subordinate thinks that. Wei Chong was about to speak, but Yi Hua said, let Lai Gu speak. Lai Gu, your honor, you clearly know that subordinate isn't thinking. Subordinate is only thinking with the lower half of his body. Lai Gu coughed lightly. Your honor, I feel that your way of thinking is truly too great. It was over. No more? Yi Hua asked gravely. Yes. Lai Gu said 10 times in one go. Speak. This subordinate feels that what his honor is doing, what is it called again? What rain? Wei Chong reminded, prepare for a rainy day. That's right, it is to prepare for a rainy day. Currently, other than Sun Fong, who is still teaching the humans, there are no other powers that are under our control. If we were to subdue those powers, it would be useful for your honor's plan. After finished speaking, Lai Gu prepared to listen to Yi Hua's lecture. Yi Hua paused for a moment, then said gravely, that's right, the current progress is indeed a bit slow. If I were to subdue a power and make it work for me, it would be more convenient for me to handle matters. Your honor is wise. Your honor is wise. Since we're going to subdue them, what kind of formation do we have to put on to shock them? Yi Hua thought back to back then when the 7 deadly sins were still around. Every time they set out to battle there would be 8 of them. Wei Chong and Lai Gu also thought of the past. However, there weren't that many people now. Wei Chong suddenly had an idea and suggested, I can call Xiao Tang over, along with Lai Gu's 3 celebrities and that little brother of mine and that little brother of mine and that little brother of mine's woman. This scene should be more or less enough. You called a few women to keep up appearances? Yi Hua was a bit displeased. Wei Chong hurriedly explained, during that day's outing they had already started to worship your honor's strength. If your honor were to show off your strength again, they would definitely become the sharp blades in your honor's hands and pierce through the blood vessels of your enemies. Not only to shock the enemy but also to shock them. That makes sense. The world has yet to witness my true strength. I might as well let them witness my true terror tonight. Wei Chong and Lai Gu didn't care whether the ground was dirty or not and said in unison, His honor's might shakes the world. Gather everyone. We're leaving in 5 minutes. Yes. Yes. Yi Hua let out a breath and felt an indescribable excitement as if I have returned to the past. This feeling is great. Arriving at Xianxia's dressing room, Yi Hua walked into the dressing room. Yi Hua, what's wrong? Don't be anxious, it will be done very soon. Xianxia smiled tenderly. Yi Hua said faintly, I ran out of cigarettes, I am going to buy a pack of cigarettes. I will wait for you here. Be careful on the road, pay attention to the cars. Xianxia warned. Yi Hua smiled lightly and pinched onto Xianxia's nose. Pay attention to the cars, so what if I crash into them? Walking into the toilet once again, Yi Hua's figure had already appeared on the surface of the sea. Taking a deep breath, Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. Within a certain hotel in Sanya City, Death Mage and Sun Fong were currently lying on the bed and playing games. Right now they were playing games as much as they wanted to. Just as they were playing, Death Mage received his master's command. His honor is going to make a big move. F***K. His honor's big move will definitely cause blood to flow like a river and bones to appear. What? And he is going to bring along this woman who is beside him. Are you for real? Time was of the essence and there was no time for Death Mage to think too much. Grabbing onto Sun Fong's fragrant shoulder, Death Mage let out a cackling sound. Imperial translation, quickly change your clothes, don't wear your pajamas anymore, I will bring you to meet his honor. This time Sun Fong was really confused. She frowned and said, What are you doing? You're hurting me. Death Mage immediately started typing on his phone. Looking at the anxious look on Death Mage's face, Sun Fong felt an indescribable nervousness. What kind of matter could make Death Mage so anxious? He flashed his phone. I'll bring you to see the master. Hurry up and change your clothes. Change into that waiter's clothes. Sun Fong was confused and asked curiously, Aren't you the boss? GGG, Royal Translation, I'm not your boss, hurry up and change your clothes. The anxious Death Mage forgot to type again. When Sun Fong saw the words that Death Mage had typed out, her entire body became unwell. Isn't he the boss? Instead, it is someone else's underling's underling. Then who was his boss's boss? Sun Fong immediately went to find a waiter's uniform and hurriedly ran back. Death Mage hugged onto his woman, then stepped into the black void. On the surface of the sea, Yi Hua was smoking a cigarette. Wei Chong could be seen being the first to arrive and he appeared with Tang Wei. Wei Chong was still wearing that black maid attire, just that Tang Wei's current expression was a bit off. A bit of fear could be seen on her face. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Wei Chong knelt down in the void and shouted out loudly. Tang Wei was startled, then immediately knelt down in the void and shouted out, Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Yi Hua didn't say anything and the two of them didn't get up either. Very quickly Lai Gu arrived as well. He brought along Still Yi, Wen Xiao and Bai Xiaozhen. The 4 of them knelt down in unison and shouted out loudly, Subordinate pays respect to your honor. The 3 women didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Just a moment ago when they found out about the boss's identity, their souls were simply about to be scared out of their wits. At this moment, Death Mage could be seen appearing at the scene as well, just that he was standing slightly behind Yi Hua. Subordinate pays respect to your honor, pays respect to master. Sun Fong was a bit dazed. Looking at the person who was kneeling down in the void, she felt a bit dizzy. Death Mage immediately pulled onto Sun Fong. "What are you standing there foolishly for? Quickly pay respect to master." Sun Fong knew what Death Mage meant and she imitated everyone. "Subordinate pays respect to your honor." Yi Hua puffed out a mouthful of smoke, then said calmly with his back facing everyone, "Everyone stand up." The 8 people behind Yi Hua slowly stood up and stood according to their positions. Chapter 191. Sun Fong was a little nervous. Death Mage was such a powerful skeleton, yet he was only standing at the back. "No, I'm the last one." Just how strong was the man in front of her? Yi Hua flicked away the cigarette that was in his hand, and the cigarette just so happened to land on the barrier, causing the sparks to burn out a round hole on the barrier. The group of 9 stepped into the barrier, and the surface of the sea once again fell into silence. The winner. Xianxia looked at the dying heavy dust and let out a heavy breath. "How are the casualties?" Xiang hurriedly said, 711 people died and 2,732 were injured. Faster thief. Xianxia could not help but swear. There were only about 10,000 people in Ying family, and this number included the guards and maidservants. 711 people had died today. What a heavy loss. Moreover, it had injured more than 2,000 people. As expected of an ancient ferocious beast, its strength was indeed formidable. Looking up at the vast Milky Way, Xianxia said in a deep voice, "Take good care of the dead, treat the injured as soon as possible and carry out the construction work at the same time. Also continue sealing heavy dust." "Yes." Xiang replied. Just when everyone thought that everything was fine, a round flame suddenly appeared in the night sky. It was very eye-catching and everyone in the Ying family raised their heads to look up. After a moment of shock, the Ying family members immediately became vigilant. He held the ancient godly item tightly in his hands. The enchantment in the void fell like a piece of glass and then 9 people walked in. The man at the very front was dressed in red, looking quite festive. Could it be that he just got married? The enchantment slowly healed. Looking at the 9 people in the sky, the Ying clan was shocked. They were actually able to break through the barrier so easily. How was this possible? "Who dares to trespass?" An armored warrior shouted out. However, before he could finish speaking, his entire body turned into a pool of blood. The people of the Ying family were dumbfounded. That warrior had just made a great contribution in the battle against Heavy Dust Mountain. His strength was clear to see. He didn't expect to be instantly killed. Moreover, the one who attacked was standing at the back of the group. A black-robed man with a sickle in his hand. That's right, it was Death Mage. He was currently raising his hand. The entire Ying family fell silent. They felt that these people were even more terrifying than Zhou Xian. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi, who were hiding below, looked upwards. "Big cousin is so pretentious. Brother-in-law is indeed the act-tough king." Xiang, who had a fiery temper, held onto an ancient godly item and rushed straight towards Yi Hua. However, Yi Hua did not even take a look at Xiang as he silently took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. "Eat my blade." The ancient godly item in Xiang's hand immediately emitted a bright golden light, illuminating the entire night sky. Meanwhile, that long blade let out an excited tiger's roar, as if it wanted to devour everything in the world. Death Mage clenched his fist. Bang! Xiang, who had an extraordinary aura, turned into a mist of blood on the spot. The ancient godly item fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground. Boom! The entire island shook and it could be seen just how powerful the ancient godly item was. However, none of the 9 people in the sky went to pick up the godly item. It was as if the ancient godly item was trash in their eyes. Death Mage, who was standing at the back of the 9 people, instantly killed 2 people, causing everyone to be stupefied. It would have been fine if he had insta-killed that warrior. However, insta-killing Ying family's second brother, who possessed an ancient godly item, was something that no one could accept. Xianxia and the other family members didn't dare to rashly make a move anymore. Since Death Mage was able to insta-kill the person who was standing at the back of the 9 people, just how strong would the person who was standing at the front be? Yi Hua exhaled out a mouthful of smoke, and the smoke that he exhaled out slowly drifted towards the weakened Heavy Dust. Heavy Dust, who was lying on the ruins, smelled the smoke, and his 4 limbs that were originally unable to move began to gradually wriggle. Soon after, Heavy Dust suddenly stood up. Or, Heavy Dust let out a long howl, then bent his front leg and bowed towards Yi Hua. Right now, the hearts of Ying family's people were collapsing. So many people had died just to defeat Heavy Dust. However, with just a breath from Yi Hua, Heavy Dust, who was on the verge of death, immediately came back to life as if he had been injected with a stimulant. Is he still human? Yi Hua could be seen raising his hands. The entire sea surface immediately began boiling, and seawater could be seen surging upwards, forming legs, waist, chest, arms and head. 8 giant water demon gods surrounded the island and looked down at all of Ying family's people. Heavy Dust was already trembling in fear. In front of the giant water demon gods, he was just like a wild boar, and he could only raise his head to look up at the giant water demon gods. Not only Heavy Dust, the legs of everyone in Ying family were trembling, and those who were slightly weaker had already collapsed onto the ground. Meanwhile, Xianxia had already fainted from fear. This was not the end. Below Yi Hua, the seawater was rising in a straight line, but while it was rising, it was also rapidly freezing, gradually forming a frozen platform. Yi Hua and the others just happened to be standing on the platform. A frozen throne could be seen rising from the center of the platform. Yi Hua slowly sat on the throne, then flicked away the cigarette that was in his hand and shouted faintly, "Why are the two of you still not coming over?" Ying family's people didn't know what this man meant. What two of us? Yi Zizi and Qin Yutong, who were hiding below, let out a sigh, and at the same time they even touched their buttocks. Ying Jingshan saw 2 figures flying out from the side, and when he saw their appearance he took in a breath of cold air. So it was them. All of the family members who had seen Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi felt as if their chests were going to vomit out blood. So it was them. The entire Ying family was actually played around by these 2 women. And they were even killing each other. Coming to the ice platform, Yi Zizi lowered her head and stood together with Wei Chong and the others, looking just like a child who had done something wrong. Qin Yutong didn't know where she should stand anymore. I don't know what kind of reaction they will have when I jump into brother-in-law's embrace. Of course, I can only think about it. Only an idiot would do something like that in such a big scene. However, where should I stand? I should just stand at the back. Yutong, stand at my side. Yi Hua said faintly. In any case, Yi Zizi is my sister-in-law. I have to give Qin Yi face. Just treat it as me standing at her big sister's side. Qin Yutong was overjoyed. Brother-in-law even brought his sister-in-law along when he is acting cool. I really want to kiss brother-in-law. However, I can't show this kind of expression on my face. I can't lose brother-in-law's face. Standing at her brother-in-law's side, Qin Yutong looked at the small island in front of her, the water gods that were standing at the surroundings, and Heavy Dust who was kneeling at the ruins. This kind of feeling was something that she had never felt before. Wei Chong could be seen taking a small step forward, then shouted out gravely, "Kneel." The 8 water gods shouted out at the same time, "Kneel." A powerful pressure directly pressed onto the backs of all of the people from Ying family, and all of the people who were flying in the air were instantly pressed onto the ground. One by one, the people from Ying family gradually kneeled onto the ground. As the family master, Ying Jingshan was holding on with all his might. How could he possibly kneel? A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Ying Jingshan's mouth, and his knee smashed onto the ground. Seeing that all of the people from Ying family were kneeling onto the ground, Yi Hua said faintly, "The reason why I came here today is to give all of you a way out." Chapter 192. 1 second later. Yi Hua said faintly, "A wise man submits to circumstances. I admire the 2 of you. The Ying family. You call this giving time to consider? Others give you a day but you give me a second?" And then he said, "A wise man submits to circumstances?" This wasn't good, right? It was too hasty. No matter who you were yesterday, from this moment onwards, you will only listen to one person's orders. Yi Hua shouted out faintly, "Sun Fong, come out." Sun Fong, who was standing at the back, was startled. Why was she called out at this time? Death Mage pushed the foolish woman. "His honor is asking you to hurry up and run." Sun Fong was still wearing the uniform of a hotel attendant. When the people of the Ying family saw Sun Fong, their heads started buzzing. Could it be that they would have to listen to a hotel attendant from now on? She's the one you'll have to listen to in the future. She'll also pass on my orders. Of course you can resist, but don't forget the price. I've exterminated a lot of people and I won't recommend killing one more. After finished speaking, Yi Hua silently lit up a cigarette. Wei Chong once again shouted in a low voice, "Did you hear me clearly?" The Ying family was silent. A water demon god punched at the crowd. Boom boom boom. The entire island shook violently as if it was about to explode. A huge shockwave swept across the island, and the entire Ying family's building was reduced to rubble by the punch. "Did you hear me?" Wei Chong once again shouted. The 8 water demon gods had already raised their fists. If they continued to fight, the entire Ying family would be destroyed. "I heard it," Ying Shang shouted. As Ying Shang spoke, more and more members of the Ying family spoke up. In front of absolute strength, all resistance was useless. They could only submit. Lai Gu shouted out, "Be orderly, use honorifics." The entire island could be heard shouting at the same time, "We will obey his honor's command." It has been a long time since I enjoyed this kind of treatment. Yi Hua slightly closed his eyes. In the past, when I met with this kind of situation, I would basically not leave anyone alive. However, it is different now. Everyone has their own use as long as I make good use of them. Wei Chong, Lai Gu and Yi Zizi, who were standing at the back, were very excited. It was as if they had returned to the past, and they really wanted to kill all of them. To Wei Chong and Lai Gu's girlfriends, what they saw tonight had already refreshed their worldview. Sun Fong was still in shock and had yet to recover. In actuality, among all of them, only Qin Yutong was the most surprised. She knew that her brother-in-law was formidable, but she didn't expect that he was formidable to this extent. No wonder the system wants to hug his thigh. Big sister is really lucky. In the future, with brother-in-law protecting her, she could rest assured. Yi Hua stretched out his hand and formed a token. "Sun Fong, you will be able to control these 8 water demonic gods. And that cat? If they disobeyed, they would be killed. However, the giant water demon god can only appear in this sea region." Death Mage immediately signaled with his eyes. "If not, if his honor gets angry and kills you, where am I going to find a wife?" Of course, Sun Fong knew the rules. She knelt on the ground and received the token with both hands. "You all can still live your lives as usual, just that you all have to listen to her." Yi Hua emphasized for the last time, then snapped his fingers and all of them disappeared. The 8 giant water demon gods also turned into seawater, and the ice ceiling throne also quickly melted. If not for heavy dust still kneeling down, everyone would have thought that they were dreaming. Looking at the ancient godly item that fell not far away from them, Ying Jingshan's expression was a bit sluggish. To them, ancient godly items are indeed trash. At this moment, Yi Hua and the others arrived at the surface of the sea, and soon after, Yi Hua said faintly, "Everyone disperse, do what you are supposed to do." Death Mage suddenly said, "Your Honor, subordinate wishes to assist Sun Fong." Proved. "Thank you, Your Honor." Death Mage was worried that Sun Fong would not be able to suppress this Ying family by herself. "With me here, I can be at ease. It wasn't easy for me to get a wife. I can't let her die just like that." Sun Fong stood at the side. Although she didn't understand what Death Mage was saying, she felt that it was related to her. "Your Honor, subordinate will be leaving first," Lai Gu said respectfully. Yi Hua waved his hand and Lai Gu's 3 women said respectfully, "Your Honor, subordinate will be leaving first." Soon after, Wei Chong brought Tang Wei and left, while Death Mage brought Sun Fong and entered the barrier once again. Yi Zizi pulled onto Qin Yutong and the 2 prepared to sneak away. "What are you 2 doing?" Yi Hua shouted gravely. Yi Zizi pouted her mouth, then immediately raised her butt. Qin Yutong let out a sigh. Brother-in-law teaching sister-in-law a lesson is right and proper. Thus, Qin Yutong learned from Yi Zizi and raised her butt. Yi Hua originally wanted to say something else, but he didn't expect that the 2 of them would be so self-aware. Alright. Clap, 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 clap. Immediately sounds of pain rang out. After quite a while, Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi held on to their butts and followed behind Yi Hua. "I hit too hard. My butts are all swollen now." "Alright, what kind of family is this?" Yi Hua asked. Qin Yutong rubbed onto her butt, then said with grievance, "We don't know either." "And Zizi doesn't know either." Yi Hua let out a breath. "I was still too casual. If the people from Ying family found out about this, they would probably cry themselves to death in the toilet. Using violence to subdue me, yet I don't know who I subdued. Do you want to know about the 3 big powers? Yutong, come over." Yi Hua called out. brother-in-law, you really can't hit her anymore, look, her butt is all swollen. Yi Hua laughed lightly, don't mess around in the future. Also, don't tell your big sister about this matter. Yi Hua said seriously. It's better to take it slow with my identity. I'm afraid that Qin Yu won't be able to accept it immediately. Why? Qin Yutong was confused. Yi Hua let out a long sigh. I'm afraid that your big sister will feel inferior. After all, I am truly too outstanding. Qin Yutong, brother-in-law, can you not act cool? Yi Hua immediately raised his hand, and Qin Yutong was so frightened that she hid behind Yi Zizi. Do you understand? I understand. I won't tell big sister, but brother-in-law, you have to find a chance to tell big sister too. Yi Hua naturally knew that. Back then when he tried to tell her that he was a cultivator, although he didn't show it, he was still able to feel that Qin Yu was feeling a bit inferior. If he were to tell her that he was a cultivator immediately, she would feel that she was useless and then have other thoughts in her mind. After arriving at the hotel, Yi Hua suddenly recalled that his wife was still at the wedding dress shop and hurriedly returned. Big Brother's ability to act cool is getting more and more formidable. He is actually telling us to go and be his foil. Yi Zizi said with a smile. I love to see his honor act cool. Zizi, did you notice that every time your big brother acts cool he has to smoke? Ah? Why is that? My big sister said that brother-in-law contracted a kind of illness that is incurable. It's called acting cool after smoking syndrome. There's such an illness? Sounds so awesome. Zizi, you cannot learn from your big brother. Girls cannot smoke, and even more so they cannot fight. They also cannot go to bars, and they also cannot put out fires. Big sister Qing, what are we going to wear to the bar tonight? I feel that pink lowly attire suits you very well. What should I wear then? Sailor Moon Warrior. Chapter 193. Yi Hua hurriedly ran to the bridal dress shop, only to see that Qinya had fallen asleep while leaning on the sofa. This foolish woman doesn't even know that I should go back first. After changing his clothes, Yi Hua lightly carried up his woman. Furthermore, it was a princess carry. Qinya pursed her lips, then wrapped her arms around Yi Hua's neck. You are back. If you are tired, why don't you go back and rest? Yi Hua said lightly. I was waiting for you. I was afraid that you wouldn't be able to find me. Yi Hua laughed. How could I not be able to find you? Qinya smiled tenderly and buried her head onto Yi Hua's chest. Qinya felt sweet in her heart. Many things had happened in the Ying family in the past 2 days. It could be considered a calamity. Fortunately, it was contained. However, Sun Fang's first order was that no one was allowed to spread what happened tonight. Otherwise, the entire clan would be exterminated. Death Mage was standing right behind his woman, looking at her giving out orders one after another. Why is that back view of hers becoming more and more enchanting the more I look at it? Especially when he saw her scolding others, it was really beautiful. The rebuilding of the Ying family was going on intensely. Sun Fang had been a sect leader before, so she knew how to manage things. Actually, all she had to do was to keep these family members in check. After giving the order, Sun Fang and Death Mage found a place to lean against each other and started playing the game. In actuality, Sun Fang had forgotten one thing. The token that she had in her hand was able to control 8 giant water demonic gods. These giant water demonic gods were summoned by Yi Hua, and their strength was far above Death Mage's. As long as Sun Fang was willing, she would be able to kill Death Mage at any time. However, for some unknown reason, Sun Fang seemed to have chosen to forget about the matter regarding the giant water demon god, and was still using her own method to get rid of Death Mage. At this moment in Long'an City in a leisure bar, Wei Chong brought Tang Wei and appeared in the toilet of the bar. Tang Wei was still very shocked. That scene just now seemed like something out of a sci-fi movie. That gigantic water man almost destroyed the island with a single punch, and this was just one. His honor is too formidable. When I think about how I had to send a love letter to his honor, I feel so embarrassed. Uncle Wei, it's already so late, I'll go to your house to sleep. Tang Wei tiptoed and said shyly. She was still in a state of excitement and really wanted to do something shameful with Uncle Wei. Wei Chong patted Tang Wei's head. Did you forget that Uncle Wei has a car? Uncle Wei can send you back. Tang Wei. Uncle Wei was the most honest man she had ever met. After walking out of the toilet, Tang Wei pulled onto Wei Chong. Uncle Wei, they are still there. Wei Chong abruptly slapped onto his own head. I forgot to tell his honor about this matter. Lil Tang, do you want to change? I'll go ask them what they want. Hey, Uncle Wei. Wei Chong walked out to the hall outside and saw a man and a woman sitting on a booth. The two of them had grave expressions as though they were making a big decision. Sorry, this restaurant is closed now. Wei Chong revealed a professional smile. The man had a guitar case beside him. Seemed to be very important to him. I want to see Black Robe. The man directly stated his purpose. That's right, he was Xiao Yi. The woman beside him was Xu Nan. Xiao Yi pondered for a long time at home and came to the conclusion that the Xiao family was hopeless. However, Black Robe suddenly appeared in his mind. With Black Robe's help, the Xiao clan would not perish. No matter what request Black Robe made, he would agree to it. He even brought the Xianyuan sword with him this time. 1 life plus the Xianyuan sword in exchange for the safety of his woman and child. As Xiao Yi's wife, Xu Nan seemed to have sensed something. That day she blocked her husband's path. If Xiao Yi didn't tell her where he was going, she would die in front of her husband. Xiao Yi had no choice but to tell Xu Nan about his plan. Without thinking about anything, Xu Nan followed her husband to the restaurant. Back then Xiao Yi asked his wife why she wanted to follow him to the restaurant. Xu Nan smiled very beautifully and said, I have a life as well. At that moment Xiao Yi discovered that he was the luckiest person in the world. If he wasn't lucky, how could he have married them? Although he had brought his wife over, Xiao Yi would definitely not let his wife die. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Wei Chong pretended to ask. I want to see Black Robe. I have a very important matter to discuss with him. Right now, Xiao Yi's complexion was extremely bad. He was on the verge of collapsing. If the matter is not settled by tonight, he might not be able to see tomorrow's sun. Xu Nan tightly held onto her husband's ice-cold hand, and her heart was bleeding. Wei Chong didn't know how his honor was going to deal with this Xiao Yi, and thus he didn't want to care about it. You can go back first, there is no Black Robe here. Wei Chong said faintly. Xu Nan knelt down in front of Wei Chong. I beg you, please let us see Black Robe. My husband is going to die soon, and he only wants to see Black Robe one last time before he dies. Wei Chong looked towards Xiao Yi and discovered that Xiao Yi was indeed like what Xu Nan had said. Xiao Yi probably wouldn't be able to live past tonight. Let Death Mage come over? Forget it, the way he speaks is already making others anxious to death. Forget it, I should just go and ask his honor for his opinion. Right now, Yihua just happened to be sleeping while hugging onto Xianxia, and Wei Chang's message suddenly rang out. Your Honor, Xiao Yi is here. Xiao Yi. Why isn't he properly cultivating at home? What is he doing here? I don't know, but looking at him it seems like he won't be able to live past tonight. Yihua asked confusedly, is he going to die? And Your Honor, do you want me to keep him? Yihua thought for a bit. I just subdued a Black Robe in the south and the north still lacks a Black Robe. Keep him. Yes. After finished speaking, Yihua continued hugging onto Xianxia and continued sleeping. So comfortable. Wei Chong took a look at Xiao Yi and Xu Nan who was kneeling on the ground. You two wait for a while. After finished speaking, Wei Chong turned around and left. Xu Nan was overjoyed. She stood up and held onto her husband's hand. Brother Xiao, hold on. Cough cough cough. Xu Nan, in the future this family will be relying on you. If you meet someone who is better than me, don't feel pressured. Xiao Yi was very weak, his face was completely devoid of blood. If not for his strong spiritual energy supporting him, he would have died a few days ago. Xu Nan shouted out, Brother Xiao, what kind of words are you saying? I, Xu Nan, am your woman in this life, and I will still be your woman in my next life. Xiao Yi gasped for breath and he didn't even have the strength to speak anymore. Suddenly, a black whirlpool appeared in front of the two, and a figure could be seen walking out of the whirlpool. The figure's entire body was covered by black fog. Xiao Yi and Xu Nan looked blankly at the figure. The scene back then was still vivid in their minds. That figure was that black gown boss. Wei Chong was having a hard time pretending to be Xiao Yi, and Xiao Tang was still waiting outside. What's the matter? Wei Chong asked gravely and his voice had completely changed. Xiao Yi could be seen to be very excited. Hugging onto his guitar case, his entire body trembled as he lied on the ground. Slowly opening the guitar case, a golden bright and dazzling Xianyuan sword appeared in front of everyone. Xiao Yi could be seen kneeling in front of Wei Chong. Just a moment ago Xiao Yi moved a bit and right now he was gasping for breath. If it wasn't for Shunan supporting him, he would have already fallen. But I can give you my sword and my life. Can you protect my wife and child? Xiao Yi said this sentence intermittently, but to Xiao Yi, after saying this sentence, he felt that it was even more difficult for him to breathe, and his entire body began trembling. Chapter 194. Wei Chong stretched out his hand and Xian Yuan's sword floated in his hand, then said faintly, "This sword is trash, your life is also trash." Letting go of his hand, Xian Yuan's sword fell back into the box, but Wei Chong intentionally left a trace of his own aura on it. Hearing Wei Chang's words and Xian Yuan's sword falling down, Xiao Yi coughed violently and tried to crawl towards Wei Chong, begging him to save his wife and child. "However, you are very lucky, I like to save Trash's life." A black fog drilled into Xiao Yi's head, and the latter immediately fainted. Brother Xiao. Tell him I can save him and also kill him." Shunan was very sensible. She knelt down and said, "From now on Xiao family will listen to Lord's orders." Wei Chong nodded his head, then disappeared and appeared in the back alley. "Saying let's go." Wei Chong smiled and said. And Tang Weiwei smiled gently. In the leisure bar, Shunan was currently checking her husband's pulse, and finally let out a sigh of relief. Her husband's pulse is stable, and his aura is even more vigorous than before. This person is too powerful to actually be able to save a person who is about to die. Shunan helped Xiao Yi to a seat and waited patiently for 10 minutes. Wu Shunan went into a daze. "Why is Brother Xiao crying? Isn't this a woman's specialty? Where am I?" Xiao Yi raised his head and asked in a daze. Shunan's heart sunk. Did something happen? "Brother Xiao, look at me." Shunan pressed onto Xiao Yi's cheek and asked nervously. Xiao Yi, who was in a daze, suddenly smiled and hugged onto his woman. Shunan was startled for a moment and punched fiercely. "You bastard, you scared me to death. I will beat you to death." Xiao Yi hugged onto the woman tightly and after a long time he said gently, "Shunan, thank you. Brother Xiao." Listening to that powerful heartbeat, Shunan was finally at ease. "All right, let's go back." Xiao Yi stood up and looked at Xian Yuan's sword that was on the ground. His expression didn't change much as he closed the box and picked it up. "Brother Xiao, are we leaving just like this?" Shunan took a look at the surroundings and asked confusedly. Xiao Yi nodded and a black mist flashed through his black eyes. "And there are still many things waiting for us to do. I want to see how many people want to betray me." Shunan nodded. It was a miracle that they had escaped from death this time. Even so, it would be even more dangerous next. Everyone stared at the Xian Yuan sword in Brother Xiao's hand. Brother Xiao seemed to be planning to continue pretending to be sick to lure out those hidden enemies. This was good. Just like that, a miraculous day passed. The Ying family, one of the 3 giants, sank into a sea of pain while the Xiao family, an ordinary family, had a day of great joy. This incident was enough to prove that luck was really important. He was not lying. Alright, I was lying. In actuality, everything is within Yi Hua's control. The next morning Yi Hua was once again pulled up by Xianxia. Of course, Xianxia only managed to pull Yi Hua up after pulling him up for an hour. Xianxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Such a grown man is actually dawdling on the bed, and he still won't get down without kissing me a few times, acting shamelessly. Yi Hua, who was pulled out of bed, was in a very bad mood. Since I, the Supreme Overlord, am in a bad mood, there is definitely someone else who is going to be out of luck. Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi were 2 unlucky fellows. Today they were filming an outdoor scene. They were definitely tired. Even if Qing Yutong and Yi Zizi wanted to run away, they wouldn't be able to, their butts were still hurting. However, this pair of bridesmaids was indeed interesting. This outdoor scene was almost as good as a celebrity's autograph signing session. Other than the cameraman, there was also a group of people taking photos of the bridesmaids. After all, the man was handsome, the woman was beautiful, and there was also a little lowly. This combination was too good. 2,500 kilometers away, there was an even more miserable scene. "Big brother, do we really have to do this?" Little brother Red asked sorrowfully. Big brother Green took a puff of his cigarette, then looked at little Ali, who was standing at the side, and said gravely, "Sell. 3,000 RMB, are you really going to sell it?" That's right, Big brother Green had the idea of selling the car. "This Wuling Hongguang was bought by me using all of my savings. Although I bought a second-hand car for 30,000 RMB, and all of them were used to transport goods, if I don't sell it now, what am I going to eat? Big brother, let's go and get the money. Big brother Green stretched out his hand and slapped. Are you stupid? If I were to go and get the money, wouldn't I be exposing my position? This is possible as well? Little brother Red asked puzzledly. Nonsense. Once I withdraw the money, the bank will know where to withdraw it. Then we will be surrounded. That's how it is on TV. Why don't you grow a brain? Little brother Red pouted his mouth. Who in the world would think about such things when watching TV? Hey, are you still selling this car? The boss of the black shop shouted impatiently. This car was not bad and he could earn a few thousand if he sold it. Big brother Green hastily said, sell. Dong Huangli could be seen walking to Big brother Green's side, then pulling onto the corner of Big brother Green's clothes. Uncle Green. Big brother Green, who originally had a stern face, turned around and smiled. Ollie, what's wrong? Uncle Green will treat you to McDonald's. Uncle Green, Ollie doesn't want to eat McDonald's anymore, it's not delicious. Dong Huangli was naturally able to tell that her two uncles didn't have any money. How could it be possible for them to go and eat such expensive food? Big brother Green carried Dong Huangli and asked with a smile, what does Ollie want to eat? Uncle Green will buy it for you. Ollie wants to eat buns. The Green and Red brothers sighed in their hearts. What a sensible child. Rubbing onto Ollie's head, Big brother Green said with a smile. All right, I will ask Uncle Red to buy meat buns for you. Looking at his underling who was bringing Ollie to buy meat buns, Big brother Green pointed at the motorcycle at the side and asked, Boss, how much is your motorcycle? 1,000 renminbi. The boss immediately asked for an exorbitant price. Big brother Green had ridden a lot of motorcycles in the past. Taking a look at the motorcycle, it was actually not bad, but 1,000 renminbi was too expensive. Are you selling it for 500 renminbi? Not selling. Forget it then. Hey little brother, please wait, we can discuss the price. The boss immediately shouted out. That motorcycle had been placed here for 2 months. It is best for me to sell it now. 800 renminbi, you can take it. Bye. 600. Forget it. All right, 500 renminbi, you can take it. The boss didn't want to waste too much space on the motorcycle. Taking the 2,500 renminbi and a motorcycle that was emitting black smoke, the three headed south. When it rained, they would hide from the rain. When it rained at night, they would randomly find a place to sleep. Although it was quite embarrassing, the entire journey was filled with laughter. At night it rained again. Big brother Green hurriedly looked for a place to take shelter from the rain. Fortunately, there was an old house that had collapsed by the roadside. The Green and Red brothers' afro heads had already collapsed, and it seemed like they were going to need to be ligated. Little Ali's face looked very crafty, but his pair of eyes were very bright. This damn weather in the south sure is filled with water. Little brother Red shook off the water that was on his head and sighed. Chapter 195. Ali rubbed onto his stomach. In actuality, I am very hungry. Ali isn't hungry. Dong Huangli said, then moved her body closer to the fire. After interacting with Ali for the past few days, the Green and Red brothers knew Ali's personality. She was especially caring and considerate. Dong Huangli stood up, then walked to the back of Big brother Green and said with a smile, Uncle Green, you have been riding a motorcycle for an entire day. Ali will give you a massage. Thank you, Ali. I'm not tired at all. I'm in high spirits. Actually, Big brother Green's shoulders were aching, and he felt that his shoulders were about to be dislocated. However, Ali was still massaging Big brother Green's shoulders. Little brother Red suddenly said angrily, Big brother, the people in the family are too vicious. They actually reported us and even said that we stole chickens from the neighboring village 1 year ago. Sigh, a friend in need is a friend indeed. I have decided to withdraw from the family. Big brother Green lit up a wrinkled cigarette. Good idea. How about we start our own clan? What's his name? The underling was very excited. Big brother Green spat out a mouthful of smoke and said indifferently, let's call it the Buried Love Clan. Faster, Xikemi. What a good name. It's deep, artistic and creative. In that case, Ali wants to join as well, Dong Huangli said with a smile on her face. Big brother Green said with a smile, it's fine if you're just a brat, we'll talk about it when you grow up. If Ali wants it, Ha, our burying love family already has 3 members. Who is going to be the boss? Little brother Red stood up and said, you all should quickly acknowledge me as the boss. Dong Huangli immediately raised her hand. Ollie will be the boss. Big brother Green was speechless. Little brother Red stood up and said with a smile, Ollie, what's so good about being the boss? Watch Uncle Red show you a spiral-style Thomas spin. Poke, poke, poke. For a moment dust filled the air and Big Brother Green and Dong Huangli immediately covered their mouths and noses. Don't King turn around, our back mountain was flattened by you. Big Brother Green couldn't take it anymore. Little Brother Red clapped his hands and stood up. Big Brother, during the family competition last year, you were ranked first in Thomas spin. Ah, Uncle Green is number 1? So formidable. Dong Huangli cried out in surprise. Dong Huangli felt that being ranked first was already very formidable. Big Brother Green was very modest. It's all in the past, a real man doesn't talk about his past achievements. Big Brother, show it to Ollie. Dong Huangli also said, Uncle Green, Ollie wants to watch you spin. Alright, Uncle Green will perform for Ollie. Big Brother Green could be seen patting his buttocks as he walked towards his little brother's position. Poke, poke, poke. As expected of the first place in the family competition, it was as if a smokescreen had been thrown at the scene. Big Brother Green's figure had disappeared. Dong Huangli, cough cough cough. Little Brother Red, cough 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 cough. Little Brother Red thought to himself. To think that the one who said that I flattened the rear mountain was obviously you, Big Brother. Happy times always passed quickly. The 3 of them gradually fell asleep and continued their journey south the next day. 10 days later. The 3 of them stood at the plaza of Long'an City and looked at the huge statue. A middle-aged woman took a look and slowly took out 5 yuan and put it on the ground. Auntie, come back, I look like a beggar with that eye of yours. Little Brother Red shouted out. The auntie turned around and gave him a look of disdain. Are you crazy? It's not like it's for you. The corner of Little Brother Red's mouth twitched. Are you trying to say that I am even inferior to a beggar? Dong Huangli picked up the 5 RMB that was on the ground, then said to the auntie, Thank you, auntie. The auntie walked back and took out 10 yuan. Little friend, go buy something to eat. The motorcycle broke down on the way here and it was the kind that couldn't be repaired. Big Brother Green also used up all his money, but he still insisted on not withdrawing money. If he really wanted to withdraw money he would only do it as a last resort. While holding on to the money in her hand, Dong Huangli, who had a sneaky look on her face, said with a smile, Uncle, Ollie has money now, I will treat you all to a meal. The Green and Red brothers stroked Ollie's head and said with a smile, Uncle is not hungry, Ollie can eat by himself. This won't do. If uncles aren't going to eat, Ollie isn't going to eat as well. Dong Huangli pouted her small mouth. Dong Huangli had a look of, if uncles aren't going to eat, I'm going to go on a hunger strike. Upon hearing Ollie's words, the Green and Red brothers glanced at each other. This sentence is worth it. Dong Huangli bought a steamed bun and pinched it into 3 pieces. However, Dong Huangli's portion was at least half of the steamed bun, and the Red and Green brothers didn't have much. They found a park and sat on a bench. The 3 of them slowly tasted the world's most delicious steamed buns. Ollie, now that we have arrived at Long'an City, where do your daddy and mommy live? Big Brother Green asked. I feel that after going through 81 trials and tribulations, I have finally sent my little ancestor to their destination. Let's go. Dong Huangli said. The Green and Red brothers went into a daze. What do you mean? Let's go? It's Qing, right? Dong Huangli said with a pure accent. Big Brother, I have heard of bars before, but I have never heard of it before. Little Brother Red said confusedly. Big Brother Green stretched out his hand and slapped on Little Brother Red's hand. Are you stupid? My phone is out of battery. Let's search one by one then. Little Brother Red let out a breath. This is such a big city, how are we supposed to search? Seems like this adventure of mine is not over yet. After finishing eating, the 3 of them began searching for the so-called Qing bar. However, they suddenly discovered something. The Qing bar seems to be closed during the day. Walking to the bustling street, the 3 of them indeed became the center of attention. Suddenly, a burst of fragrance wafted over, causing the 3 of them to stop their footsteps and look towards their right. King Song Mansion's hot pot restaurant. The Green and Red brothers pursed their lips, and Dong Huangli directly swallowed her saliva. There are so many people queuing up. Dong Huangli muttered. Big brother, the food inside looks very delicious. Little brother Red was about to drool. That's right. Dong Huangli said foolishly. Suddenly, a man who was wearing a suit stood at the entrance and smoked. Looking at the three of them, the man's brows wrinkled. The three of you stand further away, I don't want to affect my customers' appetite. Dong Huangli pulled onto Big Brother Green's hand. Uncle, let's hurry up and leave, don't affect them while they are eating. Big Brother Green was in a bad mood. What are you shouting about? This road belongs to your family. Even people who come from the countryside are more cultured than you. You still dare to talk back to me? Get lost, if not, see how I am going to take care of you. Dong Huangli pointed at the manager and said with a childish voice, Uncle, you are a bad person. Yo, where did this little beggar come from? Your mouth is so unforgiving, you don't even have a bit of upbringing. The Green and Red brothers looked at little Ali with bloodshot eyes and immediately exploded. The Green and Red brothers rolled up their sleeves and shouted, You fucking dare to say that one more time. Seeing that the Green and Red brothers were going to risk their lives, the manager immediately hid inside the restaurant. If you still don't leave, I am going to call the police. Fuck, if I don't teach you a lesson today, I will dye my hair green. After speaking, little brother Red rushed into the restaurant, scaring the people that were queuing up to immediately move aside. Big Brother Green also rushed into the restaurant, and immediately, sounds of fighting could be heard coming from inside the restaurant. In less than a minute, the Red and Green brothers ran out of the restaurant with a panicked look on their faces, then carried Dong Huangli and ran away madly. More than 10 chefs could be seen rushing out of the restaurant, and each of them was holding onto a kitchen knife. Big brother, there is an alley over here, run over there. Big Brother Green slapped onto little brother Red's back. What if that alley is blocked? Quickly run. You are right. Chapter 196. The Green and Red brothers who were carrying Dong Huangli had no idea how long they had been running for. In any case, they no longer had any strength to continue running. Ollie, are you okay? Big Brother Green gasped for breath. Fortunately, it had practiced the Thomas spin before, so its physical strength could keep up. Dong Huangli said with a baby voice, Uncle Green, lower your head. Big Brother Green was confused. However, he still squatted down slowly. Dong Huangli could be seen using her sleeve to wipe off Big Brother Green's sweat. Upon seeing this, little brother Red immediately squatted down together with his big brother and said, Ollie, Uncle Red wants it too. And Ollie will help Uncle Red wipe his sweat right away. Dong Huangli said with a smile. Originally, the two of them were very angry. However, when they saw how attentive Dong Huangli was, all of the anger in their hearts disappeared. Dong Huangli is too obedient to the point that I don't want her to suffer any harm. The three of them continued to wander around in this unfamiliar city. Dong Huangli was standing in the middle of the Red and Green brothers, holding onto their big hands and jumping around from time to time. To Dong Huangli, although the past few days were bitter, she was still very happy. Compared to when she was in Voidless Realm, she was much happier. When the night arrived, the Green and Red brothers began to bring Dong Huangli along as they went from bar to bar to bar. However, it was a pity that they did not manage to find anything. Uncle Green, Uncle Red, Ollie wants to confess something to the two of you. Dong Huangli stopped her footsteps and with a pitiful look on her face, Dong Huangli slightly lowered her head and interlocked her fingers. With such a cute look, no matter how big the matter was, no one could bear to hit or scold her. The two squatted beside Dong Huangli, then asked curiously, Little ancestor, what do you want to confess? Actually, the person that Ollie came here to look for isn't Daddy and Mommy. Ollie came here to look for Aunt Qing. After finished speaking, Dong Huangli pinched onto her own ears, seemingly as if she was preparing to receive punishment. The Green and Red brothers went into a daze. Big Brother Green rubbed onto Dong Huangli's head and said, It's all right, let's just look for Aunt Qing. But calling her Aunt Qing, this name is very strange. If Dong Huangli knew what her two uncles were thinking, she would definitely faint. Her surname is Qing. Furthermore, she is meeting an online friend. After walking for a while, a bar called Baidu appeared in front of the three of them. There were quite a lot of people there and they could even line up. Big Brother Green asked, Ollie, what characteristics does your Aunt Qing have? Dong Huangli thought for a while. Aunt Qing often says that I am beautiful and also have a lot of money. Beautiful and rich. Dong Huangli said. The green and red brothers were startled. As expected of a child from a rich family. However, to be able to raise such a sensible child, there must be a scholar in the family. That's right, his father would exterminate entire clans at the slightest provocation, and his mother would threaten people at the slightest provocation. The green and red brothers walked forward and asked a man who was wearing a black jacket and sunglasses, "Brother, do you have someone called Aunt Qing here?" The jacketed man took off his sunglasses and sized up Dong Huangli, then looked at Dong Huangli, then said gravely, "Come in with me." The green and red brothers were overjoyed. The heavens have eyes. After going through untold hardships, we have finally found our Aunt Qing. Dong Huangli was also very happy. I am finally able to see the legendary Aunt Qing. After entering the bar, Dong Huangli covered her ears. So noisy. I don't like this place at all. On the other hand, the green and red brothers were very curious. The bars in this big city were indeed very fashionable. There were so many beautiful women dressed very sexily, but compared to them there was still a gap. Their attire was the most fashionable nowadays. The man in the jacket led the three of them to the second floor. They walked through several dark corridors and pushed open one of the doors. It's inside. The green and red brothers brought Dong Huangli into the small house. However, the situation was different from what they had imagined. There was a table with poker cards and an ashtray full of cigarette butts, melon seeds, peanuts and beer bottles. It looked very messy. A man was sitting on a boss's chair, holding a woman with heavy makeup in his arms. His hands were already inside the woman's clothes. Big Brother Green immediately covered Dong Huangli's eyes. Children shouldn't look at Dong Huangli's eyes. "Sister Qing, someone is looking for you," the man in the jacket said as he stood at the side. The man patted the woman's butt and the woman said sweetly, "Brother Kun, you're so annoying." Qing Lian walked over to the front of the green and red brothers and took a glance at them. Soon after, Qing Lian squatted down and looked towards Dong Huangli. Not bad, although they are a bit dirty, they can still be counted as beauties. Dong Huangli immediately hid behind Big Brother Green and looked at the woman in front of her vigilantly. "Her voice is so ugly, she is not Aunt Qing. Tell me how much." Qing Lian smiled. Little Brother Red wrinkled his brows and said, "Are you sick? We are here to look for someone." Big Brother Green knew that he had gone to the wrong place, and he immediately pulled onto Dong Huangli and walked towards the exit. The man in the jacket blocked the door and flashed a knife in his hand. His intention couldn't be more obvious. "This isn't a place where you can come and go as you please," Qing Lian said coldly. Kun Chong, who was sitting in the boss's chair, stood up, took out a cigar and sniffed it. "The little girl stays. You can go." It wasn't that the green and red brothers didn't mingle in the outside world before. It was just that they had already washed their hands of the outside world and decided not to mingle anymore. In this kind of situation, there was no need to say anything more. Just fight and run. The two of them could be seen immediately kicking the jacketed man to the ground, then carrying Dong Huangli they ran away. Kun Chong picked up the walkie-talkie on the table. Two non-mainstream people ran out. "Beat them up. Bring the girl back to me." "Yes." Qing Lian giggled and said, "When this girl grows up, I'm sure she'll earn a lot of money. I'll feed you until you grow up first." Annoying. Outside, the green and red brothers were already surrounded. In this narrow passageway there were 5 people at the front and 5 people at the back. "Big brother, what should we do?" "What should we do? Who said that non-mainstream people don't know how to fight?" Dong Huangli also wanted to go up and help, but she was immediately pulled back by the 2 brothers. "Big brother, there are too many people." Little Brother Red held onto his arm when he saw that his arm had turned red. The more they fought, the more people there were. Furthermore, the other party had weapons. Big Brother Green carried on to Dong Huangli, then gestured towards the window. This little brother naturally understood what Dong Huangli meant by jumping out of the window. Big Brother Green could be seen taking the lead. While carrying on to Dong Huangli, he used his arm to smash the window. Luckily, it was only the 2nd floor, and furthermore, it wasn't his first time jumping onto the 2nd floor. "Ali, are you all right?" Big Brother Green asked hurriedly. Dong Huangli was already crying. "Uncles treat me too well," Dong Huangli said while choking with emotions. "Ali is fine." At this moment, Little Brother Red jumped down from the window and shouted out, Big brother, quickly leave. Sure enough, over 10 youngsters rushed out from the back door while holding onto steel pipes and fruit knives. Big brother Green cursed inwardly, then carried on to Dong Huangli and ran away. While running, little brother Red cursed out loudly, "Did you guys run marathons before? You guys have already run a few streets, yet you are still chasing after me. How can the city's hoodlums run so well?" Big brother Green cursed out. The chase was still continuing. The Green and Red brothers were already out of breath from running, and the group of hoodlums behind them were the same as well. However, they still didn't give up. Little brother Red turned around and pointed at the hoodlums and shouted out, "How big of a hatred do you guys have for me to chase after you guys for a few kilometers?" One of the hoodlums could be seen holding onto the railing and said while gasping for breath, I just can't stand you non-mainstream people. Fuck. If it wasn't for me being hungry today, I would have already knocked you down." Little brother Red was very imposing, but his appearance wasn't impressive at all. "Brothers, chop them to death." Little brother Red cursed out, then ran away once again. Chapter 197. The boss of the delinquents at the back signaled to the delinquents to surround them. This was the advantage of being a local tyrant. They knew the location of the delinquents. While carrying Dong Huangli, Little Red ran into the alleyway. However, just when he ran to the center of the alleyway, the road in front of him was blocked. Big brother Green stretched out his hand and slapped, "Where are the bends? Open a path for me." "Big brother, I didn't know that it would be like this either. There are indeed a lot of bends in our village, while in the big city there are a lot of bends." Little brother Red felt wronged. Dong Huangli said in a low voice, "Uncle, let's surrender. Ali has a way." "Surrender? That's impossible. It's impossible in this lifetime." Big brother Green looked to the side. "There is actually a bar here as well. Aren't you afraid of closing down by opening a bar here?" "Ching Bar, the name is too ugly." Big brother Green said gravely, "Let's hide inside first." "Good idea." Without thinking, the two immediately pushed open the door and entered the house beside them. Those delinquents hurriedly ran over but did not rush into the house. "Big brother, what should we do?" "What else can we do? Let's go." Not long later, all of the delinquents left. In actuality, in Long'an City, all of the bars wouldn't take the initiative to provoke this bar. It wasn't that they didn't provoke this bar before, it was that they couldn't afford to provoke this bar, because this bar was called Qing Bar. Green and Red brothers laid at the entrance of the bar and looked outside with a puzzled look. Why did they all run away? "Uncle, they all ran away." Dong Huangli was also feeling dizzy. Dong Huangli was completely confused. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind. "Sorry, the bar is already closed." Wei Chong said courteously, just like a gentleman. Green and Red brothers turned around and said embarrassedly, all right, we will leave now." Dong Huangli could be seen turning around and saying with a childish voice, "Sorry for disturbing." When Wei Chong saw Dong Huangli's face, his pitch-black eyes immediately became serious. Why does this child look so much like his honor? Furthermore, there is actually a slight aura being emitted out from her body. This aura. Wait. Wei Chang's expression changed greatly, looking very sinister. This loud shout startled Tang Wei, who was cleaning at the back. She immediately ran over and asked, "Uncle Wei, what happened?" Wei Chong slowly walked towards Dong Huangli. The Green and Red brothers immediately stood in front of Dong Huangli, and the Green and Red brothers looked like they were going to risk their lives to block Dong Huangli's path. Right now, Wei Chong was very emotional, and even Tang Wei was unable to hold him back. Bang! The Green and Red brothers were sent flying to the sides, knocked against the wall and fainted. "Uncle Green, Uncle Red." Dong Huangli shouted out anxiously. She wanted to run over and check on their injuries, but her body was bound by a formless power. Dong Huangli could be seen glaring at Wei Chong, then said with a childish voice, "Bad uncle, let go of me. You're a bad person." "Uncle Wei." Tang Wei shouted out worriedly. Wei Chong didn't pay attention to Dong Huangli and was fixedly staring at Dong Huangli. All kinds of possibilities were appearing in his mind. "Let me go." Dong Huangli suddenly became enraged, and her pair of eyes immediately flickered with a red light. Dong Huangli's powerful aura burst out, and she actually broke free from Wei Chang's restraint, then threw her small fist towards Wei Chong. Right now Wei Chong was extremely excited. This aura is actually the same as his honor's aura. Then who was she? Moreover, a little girl was actually able to break free from his restraints. This was too unbelievable. Wei Chang stretched out his index finger, and Dong Huang Li's small fist struck onto Wei Chang's index finger. A berserk qi swept out in all directions. Wei Chang hurriedly dispelled this wave of qi, otherwise he would have to clean up again. Dong Huang Li, who stretched out her small fist, seemed to have used too much strength, then slowly closed her eyes. Wei Chang stretched out his hand and hugged onto Dong Huang Li. Uncle Wei, she? Tang Wei asked curiously. Xiao Tang, Uncle Wei won't be sending you back today, something big happened. Wei Chang held onto Dong Huang Li's small hand and sensed the aura within Dong Huang Li's body. That's right. This is his honor's aura and it is actually so pure. Tang Wei wrinkled her brows and said worriedly, Uncle Wei, I'll stay here and accompany you then. Wei Chang nodded his head, then immediately contacted his honor. I'm afraid that his honor's vacation will end in advance. Yi Hua, who was far away in Sanya, was currently feeling rather comfortable. Ever since that day when they were filming the outdoor scene, Yi Hua and Qin Yutong couldn't bear to watch on anymore. Izizi calculated for a bit. In this 1 hour, Yi Hua would kiss at least 10 times. Qin Yutong calculated for a bit. Big sister would be kissed at least 240 times a day. So scary. Indeed, sometimes not only would Yi Hua take the initiative, Qinya had also learned to take the initiative. This made Yi Hua very happy. In the end, the two of them indulged in pleasure to the point that they forgot about their duties. If they didn't kiss each other, they would feel that something was missing. In actuality, this also meant that the relationship between Yi Hua and Qinya had already risen to a certain level. In the past, Qinya would passively accept it, and sometimes she would even say that she wanted Yi Hua to admit that she was a swindler. But now there was no need for that at all. For example, right now Yi Hua was fiercely biting onto Qinya, and Qinya had a look of enjoyment on her face as she hugged onto Yi Hua's neck. After a long time they finally separated. My lips are already swollen from being sucked on by you. Qinya pursed her cherry lips. This hateful fellow is becoming more and more like a child. Yi Hua directly carried Qinya into his embrace and lightly caressed Qinya's lower abdomen. Feeling the little fellow's aura, it's very pure. Yi Hua, what do you think our child should be called? Qinya asked curiously while lying on Yi Hua's chest. Yi Hua said faintly, that is definitely the most resounding name. Could it be Yi Xiangliang? Yi Hua couldn't help but knock on Qinya's forehead. To think that you can even think of something like that. Aya, you hit my forehead again. What should I do if I become stupid? Qinya puffed out her cheeks and looked at Yi Hua with hidden bitterness. Seeing that the woman was acting coquettishly, Yi Hua couldn't help but press down on her and fiercely bite down on her. So soft and so sweet. Your honor. Your honor. Just as Yi Hua was enjoying his wife's lips, Wei Chang's exclamation rang out in his mind. While kissing onto Qinya's lips, Yi Hua replied coldly, if there's nothing, don't disturb me. Your honor, something big happened. Yi Hua sat up and wrinkled his brows. Wei Chang never talked about something big before. Even if he never talked about it before. To be able to make me so flustered. Yi Hua, what's wrong? Qinya asked concernedly. Yi Hua shook his head, then walked to the balcony and lit up a cigarette. What's going on? Your honor, you should quickly come back and take a look. This matter is really hard to explain. Look at what? Yi Hua asked coldly. This fellow's so-called big matter is looking at things? Looking at a person, your honor, this matter cannot be sloppy. Since Qinya had already said it to this point, Yi Hua didn't ask anymore. However, he wasn't very anxious. Walking into the house, Yi Hua asked, Qinya, book the earliest flight tomorrow, we are going back. Did something happen? Qinya immediately became worried. Yi Hua laughed lightly, don't worry, it's just a small matter. Stop bragging, if it's just a small matter then what's the big matter? Yi Hua stretched out his hand and lifted onto Qinya's chin, then said faintly, to me, you are my big matter. Yi Hua. You have changed. Qinya cried out in surprise. You've become glib. I want the original version of Yi Hua. You are too bad, I want to downgrade. Sorry, I will only become worse and worse. After speaking, Yi Hua pressed onto Qinya once again. In the past, I felt that the king not attending morning court was bullsh*t, but now, I feel that the saying is indeed somewhat reasonable. Chapter 198. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi were lying on the ground all the way back, not knowing what the two of them were doing at night. 1.5 hours later, they arrived at Long City's airport. Qin Yutong and Yi Zizi continued to act as walking zombies. Qinya looked at her own little sister and shook her head. How old are you already, and yet you are still playing around with Yi Zizi? To be precise, it should be Yi Zizi playing with Qin Yutong. 40 minutes later, the group finally arrived at the entrance of Leisure Bar. Yihua, I want to eat Chinese jianbing. Brother-in-law, I want to eat too. Big brother, Zizi wants to eat too. I also want to add eggs and ham sausage, Yihua said faintly. Carry the luggage inside by yourself. Brother-in-law, aren't you embarrassed to let 3 beautiful women carry so many things? Yihua turned his head around and said to his sister-in-law. Moving is fine too. Brother-in-law, how can I let you carry such heavy things? Leave them all to me, I have great strength. Qinya rolled her eyes at her little sister. Where is your moral integrity? Big sister Qing, Zizi has little strength, I will leave it to you, I am going upstairs to sleep. After finished speaking, Zizi held onto Qinya's hand and bounced into Leisure Bar. Qin Yutong looked at the 5 big chests and let out a deep sigh. Why are you all bullying me? Inside Leisure Bar, Wei Chong and Dong Huangli were looking at each other and the atmosphere was a bit strange. Tang Wei, who was standing behind Wei Chong, didn't know what to say either. Why did Uncle Wei suddenly go and make things difficult for a child? Green and red brothers were tied onto a stool and black cloth was stuffed onto their mouths. Who knows what they were wiping? Big brother Green, woo-oo. Imperial translation, if you have the guts, let's have a fight. Little brother Red, woo. Imperial translation, Beauty, do you want to know about non-mainstream? Dong Huangli pouted her mouth and said angrily, Uncle, you are a bad person. Who are you? Wei Chong asked seriously. Ali is not going to tell you. Dong Huangli snorted and turned her head. Wei Chong continued asking, where did you come from? Not telling. Not telling. I won't say it even if you beat me to death. Veins were popping out on Wei Chang's forehead. It was clear that Wei Chong was angered quite a bit by little Ollie. However, before his honor returns, Wei Chong didn't dare to do anything to little Ollie. Gurgle, Dong Huangli's stomach let out a growl, and Dong Huangli, who was originally aggressive, immediately blushed. Dong Huangli's big eyes even took a glance at Wei Chong and Tang Wei. Tang Wei was amused by Dong Huangli's expression. Dong Huangli is so cute. Big sister, don't think that just because you are beautiful you can laugh at Ollie. Ollie hasn't eaten anything for an entire day. It is normal for her stomach to be growling, Dong Huangli snorted. Dong Huangli had a look of, you are all bad people, to actually laugh at a child's stomach that was growling. Wei Chong heaved a sigh of relief. Little Tang, go get something. Hey Uncle Wei. When Dong Huangli looked at the snacks in front of her, Dong Huangli swallowed her saliva. How dare you use delicacies to tempt Ollie? It's no use. Ollie will never surrender, she pursed her lips and vowed solemnly. Wei Chong was also amused by Dong Huangli's actions. Wei Chong picked up a French fry and placed it in front of Dong Huangli's eyes, then slowly shook the French fry. Dong Huangli's big eyes followed the French fry and turned around. Hungry? Dong Huangli said, hungry, they are all yours, eat as much as you want. Wei Chong said with a smile. Uncle, let go of Uncle Green and Uncle Red, they haven't eaten their fill for a few days. Dong Huangli begged. Wei Chong waved his hand and the ropes that were tied to the Green and Red brothers fell off. The two regained their freedom and immediately ran towards Dong Huangli. Big brother Green was protecting Dong Huangli. Little brother Red was protecting the snacks on the table. Don't be nervous, I don't have any ill intentions, just eat. Wei Chong said faintly. I would be a fool if I believed you, you have already tied them up for an entire night, and you still dare to say that you don't have any ill intentions. However, the food is really delicious. Suddenly a voice rang out from the doorway. Wei Chong, who are they? Qinya walked over while holding on to Yi Zizi's hand, and Qin Yutong, who was carrying a suitcase, followed behind them. Yi Zizi retracted the smile on her face and looked at Dong Huangli, who was eating on the table confusedly. Yi Zizi had the same feeling as Wei Chong. Lady Boss, she. Wei Chong didn't know how to explain. Dong Huangli, who was gorging herself on the food, placed down the food that she was holding onto, then said to everyone with a smile, my name is Dong Huangli. Ali. Xianxia cried out in surprise. Qin Yutong directly threw down her suitcase and ran towards Dong Huangli. The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth twitched slightly. My opponent is actually so young. Are you Aunt Qing? Looking at Qin Yutong's excited expression and her voice, which was exactly the same as Qin Yutong's, Dong Huangli mumbled. Qin Yutong pointed at herself and said, "That's me, I am Aunt Qing." The green and red brothers stood silently at the side. The three that came in are so beautiful, and one of them is such a lowly. From the looks of it, they seem to be very rich and they seem to be very imposing. Dong Huangli's face could be seen collapsing as she hugged onto Qin Yutong. "Ollie, I finally found you, Wu. Ollie, don't cry." Qin Yutong hurriedly comforted Dong Huangli, then took a look at the green and red brothers who were at the side. "Just by looking at the way they dress up, I can tell that they aren't good people. They are definitely the ones who kidnapped little Ollie." Xianxia walked over and said tenderly, "Ollie, be good, don't cry. Ollie, don't cry, Ollie, be happy. Aunt Qing, as expected, all of you look very beautiful, all of you look exactly the same." This sentence was very pleasant to hear. Women wouldn't turn away from other people's praises. However, Xianxia glared at her younger sister. "Why aren't you changing your face? You are Aunt Yi. You are only a bit taller than Ollie." Dong Huangli pointed at Yi Zizi and cried out in surprise. The corner of Yi Zizi's mouth twitched slightly. "Don't call me aunt, I am only a bit taller than you. A little thing calling another little thing aunt, don't you think that's a bit hurtful?" "Big brother, their relationship is so complicated," little brother Red said in a low voice. "And there are so many aunties." Yi Zizi looked around for a bit, then asked curiously, where is uncle?" Xianxia pinched onto Dong Huangli's little face and said tenderly, "Uncle is outside to buy something, he will be coming over very soon." "Why do I suddenly feel that Ollie looks a bit like? Who does she look like?" At this moment Yihua walked in from the outside while holding onto a Chinese jianbing and said faintly, "Your breakfast." Just that, right after Yihua finished speaking, Yihua froze as if his acupoints were poked by someone, and he stared blankly at Dong Huangli, who was in Qin Yutong's embrace. Meanwhile, Dong Huangli was also staring blankly at Yihua. Xianxia looked left and right. "No wonder I felt that Ollie looks like a person just now, doesn't she look like Yihua?" However, Qin Yutong had the same thought as well. "Don't look at how Ollie looks like a person right now, her eyes, nose and mouth are actually so similar to brother-in-law's. This is too mystical, right? She can't be brother-in-law's illegitimate daughter, right?" Qin Yutong immediately understood the truth. However, Xianxia didn't think that Yihua was an illegitimate daughter. In actuality, she didn't dare to think that way. Right now Yihua's breathing was a bit hurried. "This little girl actually has my aura, how is this possible?" Chapter 199. Yihua, who had never been nervous before, right now he seemed very nervous and confused. Dong Huangli didn't have so many thoughts in her mind, she just wanted to get closer to her uncle. Dong Huangli stretched out her little hands and shouted, "Uncle, hug." Hearing the little girl's call, Yihua didn't think much and slowly walked over, then took over Dong Huangli, who was in Qin Yutong's embrace. When Yihua carried Dong Huangli in his embrace, he discovered that their bloodlines were connected. Could she be my child? Did she pop out from the crack of a rock? Or did she grow out from a vine? Dong Huangli felt a very comfortable smell. She just wanted to hug uncle because uncle smells so good, even better than mother. Xianxia's expression was a bit flustered. Looking at her, they look even more alike. Especially the gentleness on Yihua's face, and the intoxicated look on Dong Huangli's face. Xianxia hurriedly shook her head and got rid of this impossible thought. However, did Yihua suddenly come back in a hurry just to see Ollie? Wei Chong and Yi Zizi took a glance at each other. They seemed to have already realized something from his honor's appearance. Qin Yutong began to let out her rich imagination. "My child has finally found her father." However, this also represented a terrifying matter. Brother-in-law has another woman outside. Xianxia immediately looked towards her big sister, and as expected, her expression wasn't very good. "I reckon that big sister is thinking the same thing as me. Big sister hates men who are fickle in love the most, and she is even disgusted with dad having two women. Oh my god, if my guess is right, this will definitely be a family storm and they might even divorce." Right now, all of Yihua's attention was placed on Dong Huangli, who was in his embrace, and he didn't notice Xianxia's abnormal expression at all. The atmosphere was a bit strange, no one dared to speak. Even Yi Zizi, who liked to cause trouble, was silent. After a long time, Yi Hua looked towards the green and red brothers. The latter was immediately startled. This man's gaze isn't very friendly. Wei Chong, drag them out. Yi Hua said coldly while carrying Dong Huangli. Yes. Dong Huangli, who was in Yi Hua's embrace, said hurriedly, Uncle, don't chase them away. According to his previous attitude, Yi Hua would definitely not pay attention to them, and would even teach them a lesson. No one can disobey his words. Although Xianxia appeared, right now a second person appeared. Why? Yi Hua's tone wasn't very stiff. Uncle, it was Uncle Green and Uncle Red who sent Ollie over. If it wasn't for Uncle Green and Uncle Red, Ollie would have starved to death. Dong Huangli raised her head and looked at Yi Hua. I really like this uncle, I really want to stay in his embrace forever and never come out. Yi Hua took a look at the green and red brothers, then said faintly, Wei Chong, I will leave them to you. Yes. Although it was just a few short words, it was enough to change the fate of the green and red brothers. However, right now the green and red brothers were completely confused. They had no idea how powerful the man in front of them was. If they were to escort his bloodline back, they would become the next death mage. This was not something money could compare to. Big brother, in any case we were also hoodlums in the past, but now that we have been demoted we have to become security guards? Little brother Red said quietly. If they went back now they would be reluctant to part with Ollie. Big brother Green said in a low voice, let's wait and see first. If they don't treat Ollie well we will take Ollie to see Papa and Mama. That's fine. We're still wanted criminals anyway. Let's hide for a while first. Yi Hua carried Dong Huangli and walked upstairs. When he passed by Xianxia, Yi Hua held onto Xianxia's tender and delicate hand. When the two of them disappeared from the top of the stairs, everyone let out a breath of relief. Wei Chong was still very happy. After all, his honor has gained another bloodline. These two non-mainstream people have made a great contribution. You two will follow me in the future. Wei Chong laughed loudly. This is a happy occasion, it is worth celebrating. Yi Zizi revealed out a sincere smile. With more and more of his honor's bloodline, it means that his honor will be able to create a brand new dynasty just like humans. Of course, this was not the main point, the bloody process was what Yi Zizi wanted. In actuality, Wei Chang's thoughts were more or less the same. Big brother Green patted onto his little brother's shoulder. Don't be discouraged, you will be able to protect Ollie by being a security guard. I wonder how much a security guard will earn a month, will it be 2,000 RMB? Will the security guard provide food and accommodation? Little brother Red was very worried. Big brother Green looked towards Wei Chong and asked, Brother, there should be 5 types of insurance and 1 type of housing, right? Hearing what Big brother Green said, everyone laughed. Yi Zizi shouted out, there are 2 honest people here, everyone quickly come and bully them. The only ones who would be able to survive in front of a group of monsters were the green and red brothers. Qing Yutong laughed tenderly, then looked upstairs worriedly and started to worry in her heart. Uncle, Ollie wants to sleep, Dong Huangli said while tightly hugging onto Yi Hua's neck. Yi Hua said gravely, go and take a bath first, then sleep. And, Xianxia, carry Ollie and take a bath. Yi Hua handed Dong Huangli, who was in his embrace, over to Xianxia. Alright Yi Hua, go and buy a few sets of clothes for Ollie. While carrying on to Dong Huangli, Xianxia said tenderly. Yi Hua nodded his head, then took out his phone and went to buy a few sets of clothes for Ollie. Aunt Qing, Ollie is able to take a bath by herself, there is no need to trouble you. Dong Huangli said sweetly, appearing to be very sensible. Xianxia was also amused by Dong Huangli's adorable expression. No matter how many suspicions I have, they are still just suspicions, Yi Hua will not lie to me. Little Ollie, let's go and take a bath together, okay? Xianxia tidied up Dong Huangli's hair and said tenderly. Then can Ollie give Aunt Qing a back rub, of course. And Ollie likes Aunt Qing. While laughing, Xianxia carried on to Dong Huangli and walked into the bathroom. If it was any other time, Yi Hua, this jealous king, would definitely fly into a rage, but right now Yi Hua didn't feel anything. Yi Hua took out a cigarette, then stood beside the window and lit it up. If Ollie didn't sprout out from a crack in a rock and didn't grow out from a vine, could it be that she was born? How is that possible? I have only touched 2 women. Thinking up to here, Yi Hua's gaze was filled with astonishment, and the cigarette in his hand was extinguished. That night 3 years ago, could it be that it was her? Thinking back to those few days when I was playing games, Ollie said that she was almost 3 years old, and that her mother was very beautiful but her father died. Damn it. This woman actually cursed me to die. Throwing away the cigarette, what's the point of thinking so much? I should just directly capture that woman and find out the truth. No. Yi Hua's brows were solemn as he let out a heavy sigh. If Xianxia were to find out about this matter, she would definitely quarrel with me. Just like during these few days when I was playing, whenever I took a look at other women, I would become extremely jealous and act coquettishly. Right now, it isn't the problem of me taking a look at a beautiful woman, and I even ended up having a child. Right now, it wasn't easy for me to train Xianxia to be obedient. Could it be that I have to return back to how I was in the past? I, the Supreme Overlord, am actually being troubled by such a lousy matter. This damned human nature, I really want to go back to how I was before and return back to how I was before. For such a big matter, he had to gather his subordinates and hold a summit meeting. This is the most serious matter that I have ever encountered. Chapter 200. The Green and Red brothers who were in the lobby were very flabbergasted. Just a moment ago they were still listening to Wei Chang's lecture, and suddenly they said that they had a stomachache and went to the toilet, and then the little lowly upstairs also followed them and went to the toilet. Big Brother Green said in a low voice, "I feel that there's something wrong with Uncle Wei and the little lowly." "I think so too, that Tang Wei seems to be Uncle Wei's girlfriend." Little Brother Red was very curious. "The bars in the big city sure are messy, they are too brazen." Big Brother Green rubbed his head. "Our way of thinking is still too old-fashioned and we can't keep up with the pace of the big city." "That's right, I feel that I have already fallen in love with the pace of a big city." Little Brother Red said with a light smile. "So this is what a big city is like, it's so open in the toilet." Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Wei Chong, Lai Gu, Yi Zizi, 3 of the 7 deadly sins were all present. "Stop kneeling, the ground is dirty," Yi Hua said lightly. "Thank you, Your Honor, for understanding us." The 3 stood up and shouted out. Pausing for a moment, Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. "You all should know about what happened today, right?" Lai Gu also found out about this news from Wei Chong, and he was incomparably shocked in his heart. "His Honor's bloodline is already out, and I thought that it would take a few more months." Subordinate thinks that this is a happy occasion. For His Honor to be able to reunite with little His Honor, it is a very auspicious sign. Wei Chong said with a smile, and the other 2 nodded their heads as well. Yi Hua's brows wrinkled as he said gravely, "Ali is indeed my bloodline, but the person who gave birth to her." Speaking up to here, Yi Hua looked towards his 3 subordinates. "You 3 should know which woman it is, right?" "I don't know." Yi Zizi raised her hand and shouted. She looked as if she didn't want her to answer the question. However, Wei Chong and Lai Gu knew about this matter. Lai Gu said solemnly, "Your Honor, since the matter has already happened, just bring that madam over. With Your Honor's lofty status, it is perfectly normal for you to have another woman." "Wei Chong, what do you think?" Yi Hua let out a mouthful of smoke and asked. Wei Chong pondered for a moment. This subordinate feels that this matter still needs to be discussed with Furen. Of course, there is also the matter of whether the other wife is willing or not. Right now, Wei Chong knew how to think from another person's point of view, and it was precisely because of this that he had yet to push Tang Wei down. Yi Zizi pursed her lips. "What's there to be unwilling about? Just grab him and bring him over." Yi Hua glared at Yi Zizi, and Yi Zizi immediately shut her mouth. In the past, His Honor didn't have so many worries. It would be great if it was that easy. This was the bad side of human nature. They had to take care of one side and appease the other. How troublesome. "Lai Gu, how did you get those women together?" Yi Hua asked faintly. For this kind of question I still have to consult Lai Gu. After all, Lai Gu has 3 women, and it seems like they are still able to stay together peacefully. Lai Gu pondered for a while, then said respectfully, "Your Honor, subordinate doesn't know either. In any case, I just pushed and then, as I pushed they all ended up together." Yi Zizi had a look of disdain on her face. "Lecherous dragon. I am a human, this is a human's nature, all right?" Lai Gu was unwilling to accept it and argued with Yi Zizi. Wei Chong said, Your Honor, subordinate feels that those who are able to catch Your Honor's fancy are definitely not ordinary women. Of course we can't use ordinary methods to get them. Yizizi clapped her hands. I understand now. Gluttonous monster means that if Your Honor buys new clothes for Madam will accept Ali, am I right? Yi Hua. Wei Chong. Lai Gu. Wei Chong, what you mean is for me to not make a move for now? Yi Hua asked curiously. Wei Chong nodded his head. That's right, let Madam and little His Honor get to know each other first, and let them develop a favorable impression of each other. Even if the matter is exposed, Madam Xianxia wouldn't make things difficult for Ali. That makes sense. Yi Hua nodded his head. After remaining silent for a while, Yi Hua continued to ask, what do you guys think, should I accept that woman? Lai Gu raised his hand and answered. Speak. Lai Gu immediately said, Your Honor, subordinate feels that we must accept her. If little His Honor is really born from her, then she should have a status. After all, little His Honor is His Honor's bloodline. A mother's status depends on her daughter. Wei Chong and Yi Zizi were startled. There's nothing wrong with what Lai Gu said. Lai Gu, I am very happy that you decided to use your brain and not your lower body. Lai Gu smiled complacently. Who said that I only know how to use my lower body? Just look at how His Honor praised me. Your Honor, then when are we going to invite the other madam over? Wei Chong asked the crucial question. Yi Hua stepped on the cigarette and said gravely, wait for my order. Yes. 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 You guys can disperse now. All right, Wei Chong, take good care of those two non-mainstream people. Yi Hua instructed, then disappeared and appeared in the bedroom. Lai Gu went into a daze, then asked curiously, what non-mainstream people? The two humans who escorted His Honor's bloodline back. Wei Chong laughed. F***K, those two fellows got lucky, His Honor even specially instructed them to do so, formidable. Lai Gu gave a thumbs up, then disappeared from the toilet. Yizizi walked out of the toilet while yawning, and the green and red brothers who were outside immediately turned their heads around. Wei Chong walked to the front of the two and said, do you guys want to continue protecting Ali? The green and red brothers looked at each other, then said in unison, yes. Wei Chong was very satisfied with this answer. Yi Hua, who returned to his bedroom, heard the sounds of playing coming out from the bathroom, and the corner of his mouth slightly curved up. However, very quickly the corner of his mouth fell back down. The woman from 3 years ago and also Xianxia, how did they suddenly hit the jackpot? This deity really never misses a shot. However, this was also good. The more bloodlines there were, the better. The only problem was how to allow them to coexist. Why is it that those humans can have groups of wives and concubines but I can't? Let's wait and see first. If it doesn't work, then I will use forceful means. I, the Supreme Overlord, am not afraid of two women. Thinking back to the woman from 3 years ago, Yi Hua felt that the woman was still not bad. She was barely able to be his woman. Of course, he still needed to train her up a bit. After all, that woman was even more arrogant than Xianxia. From how long she lasted, it could be seen that she was in a state where she was not willing to admit defeat. After a while, Xianxia, who was wearing pajamas, came out with Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli was all smiles and she seemed to be very happy. Uncle, hug me. Yi Hua smiled lightly and hugged onto Ali. Is this the feeling of a child? The feeling of wanting to take good care of her and protect her was so subtle. Right now, Yi Hua was finally able to understand the thoughts of those humans from 3 years ago. After killing the small, the big would come, and after killing the big, the old would come. If it was me, I would also do the same. Xianxia let out a sigh of relief. Looking at Yi Hua and Ali, they really look like father and daughter. I can't help but say a woman's intuition is very scary. Uncle, Ali doesn't want to sleep anymore. Ali wants to play chicken with Aunt Yi and the others. Dong Huangli nestled in Yi Hua's embrace and said in a low voice. Because she was a bit afraid that her uncle would scold her. After all, her mother always scolds her. Yi Hua said lightly, all right. Chapter 201. This caused Yi Hua to laugh out loud. Xianxia, who was at the side, pouted her small mouth. When I want to play a few rounds with you, you are always unwilling. But when Ali wants to play with you, you are acting like this. This is not fair, I want it too. Xianxia was unwilling to accept it. All right, Ali will bring Aunt Qing to the chicken dinner. Dong Huangli clapped her hands and said with a smile. Yi Hua said faintly, your Aunt Qinyao is very noob. It's alright, Ali is already used to it. Qinyao, you guys are such bullies. Carrying Ali, Yi Hua walked into Qin Yutong's room and sure enough, everyone was sitting together in the fourth row. And when Yi Zizi and Dong Huangli meet each other, a battle would definitely be unavoidable. Auntie, you killed one less person than Ali, hee. Don't call me aunt. I'm only 8 years old. Acting young, but you are Auntie Qing's little sister. If Ali calls you big sister, then Ali also has to call Auntie Qing big sister. Ali faints, so confusing. Qinya and Qin Yutong couldn't help but laugh. Yi Hua sat at the side and silently looked at the four of them playing the game. In actuality, he was feeling very vexed in his heart. The appearance of Osli was too unexpected to the point that he didn't know what to do. From the looks of it, Qinya's position in my heart is already very high. If not, I wouldn't be feeling this kind of emotion right now. If it was when I first met Qinya, I definitely wouldn't have so many worries. No matter how strong he was, he would still have to give up when he encountered family problems. It was really hard to be a human. Being a human was indeed difficult, but being a skeleton was much more enjoyable. For example, the current death mage had been having a great time in Ying family for the past few days. He would play games with Sun Fang every day, and when he ran out of money he would ask Dou Fusher to calculate for him. In the end he dug up the entire Ying family. Who would have thought that the Ying family's feng shui was such a treasured place with good stuff everywhere? The people of the Ying family complained incessantly. Although the two of them didn't interfere with the internal affairs of the Ying family and only played games every day, if this continued, the Ying family would soon fall apart. It was infuriating, but they didn't dare to do anything to them. Especially that youngster. Every day he would walk around Ying family with a compass, and as long as he was able to calculate something he would ask Heavy Dust to directly dig it out. I really want to steal that compass. Fuck, those treasures were placed there by my Ying family's own people. Their goal was to create a man-made feng shui treasure land. The heavens want my Ying family to perish. Right now, within Ying family's side room, Death Mage and Sun Fang were lying on the bed with a solemn expression on their faces. Sun Fang could be heard mumbling, "Go and die, go and die," burp. After killing Sun Fang over 100 times, the Death Mage's warrior was finally defeated by Sun Fang's human wave attack. Looking at the fallen Death Mage on the screen, Sun Fang was stupefied. Gradually, her eyes turned red and she started to choke with sobs. I finally killed it. He had finally gotten his revenge. Death Mage let out a sigh. In actuality, he had purposely fallen into Sun Fang's trap today. Seeing that Sun Fang was truly pitiful, he decided to give way to her. Sun Fang could be seen suddenly flipping her body over and riding on Death Mage's body, then smashed onto Death Mage's chest bone with her fists. "Do you see this? I am going to kill you." Woo woo woo, all of the grievances he had suffered for the past month had exploded out. It was all because of it that he was mocked by everyone and even chased out of the Cloud sect. In the end, I found the culprit, but I was completely unable to kill him. At that time I was really in despair and I even had the heart to die. Although I am unable to kill you in reality, I will kill you in the game. The idea is good, but I was also killed by Death Mage over 100 times in the game. This time I finally won and I am finally able to ride on Death Mage's body. Death Mage stretched out his bony finger and wiped off the tears on Sun Fang's face, then quickly typed, "Wife, you look good when you cry, you have to cry more often in the future." Sun Fang's face turned red as she gave Death Mage a kick. "Cry your sister." Death Mage was kicked off the bed. What a violent woman. I am starting to like this woman more and more. At Ying family's main hall, the family members were currently having a meeting. Everyone's face could be seen to be filled with unwillingness and anger. Ying Shang glared at Ying family's main hall with a pair of bell-like eyes. His chest was heaving up and down as he shouted out angrily, "Big brother! This voidless realm is going too far." Ying Jingshan, who was sitting on the main seat, had an extremely bad expression on his face, and his eyes were completely bloodshot. The latest news that he received today was that the Empress was actually looking for a little girl, and that little girl was her daughter. Illegitimate daughter. I didn't expect that the Empress was actually such a person. If it wasn't for a single sentence from her, how could there be such a huge change in Ying family within 2 days? My son wouldn't have died and wouldn't have brought an even bigger disaster to Ying family. What the Empress did was the same as toying with Ying family's dignity. Ying Kongshi's injuries were more or less healed. Right now he was also sitting at the side and said hurriedly, I won't blame the Empress for having an illegitimate daughter. As long as I marry her, everything will be fine. Hearing Xianxia still saying such words, everyone couldn't help but want to slap him to death. It feels like you aren't a member of Ying family and instead, you are the Empress's lackey. Jingshan's bloodshot eyes bulged. Voidless realm is simply provoking us. Although our Ying family is low profile, we will definitely not allow others to bully us like this. If the Empress doesn't give our Ying family an explanation, then let's have a fight. Big brother, I agree. Xiang suddenly stood up and shouted out. Xianxia hurriedly persuaded, the Empress didn't mean to do such a thing. If you want to blame someone, blame those two women and that group of people. Vile creature. Jingshan could be seen instantly appearing in front of his son, then sent him flying with a slap. If not for the sake of your mother, I would have to kill you for what you said just now. Xianxia held onto his cheek and looked at his father in disbelief. Right now we can only rely on the Empress. Both sides should work together to fight against the Empress. How can our Ying family bow down to others? Fight against who? Sun Fong could be seen walking over with lotus steps and behind her was Dou Fushi. However, Death Mage didn't follow along, not knowing what he went to do. Today Sun Fong was exceptionally beautiful, and it was as if she had returned back to that Cloud Sex sect master. Although her body was only wearing a simple muslin robe, she gave off a strong sense of confidence, and the smile on the corner of her mouth made people unable to take their eyes off her. As expected of the publicly acknowledged pampered girl Sun Fong. This was also the reason why Sun Fong untied the knot in her heart and completed her revenge. Dou Fushi felt as if he was shooting up a rocket these few days. During the first 3 days his head was buzzing non-stop. I didn't even manage to enter my family, but now I consecutively jumped 3 levels, jumping over my family, and even jumping over the heads of the 3 big powers. The luckiest thing that happened in my entire life was that night when I went out to catch a ghost, and furthermore I caught the wrong ghost. Although it was a bit embarrassing, but without the embarrassment on that day I wouldn't have the face I have today. Ying family. Even one of the 3 big powers has to treat me respectfully. This is simply great. I must properly repay the evil ghost couple and help them earn more money to play games. Chapter 202. Xianxia, who was on the ground, lowered his head, not daring to look straight at Sun Fong. Meanwhile, all of the people from Ying family ran out and cupped their hands respectfully. Lady Sun. Sun Fong nodded her head silently, then said with a light smile, Don't be nervous, I am just passing by. You all can continue with your meeting. All of the relatives were shocked and Jingshan hurriedly said, Lady Sun, don't misunderstand, we are very loyal to his honor. That would be for the best. Sun Fong said. After pausing for a moment, Jingshan continued, Lady Sun, we were discussing about Voidless Realm just now. Sun Fong was puzzled for a moment. Voidless Realm? Voidless Realm? Although I was the sect master in the past, I was still very unfamiliar with the 3 big shots. I had only heard of them before. Xiang added, Lady Sun, Voidless Realm is one of the 3 big shots, and they are the power that controls the entire north. Why? Did they provoke you? Sun Fong asked. Jingshan said gravely, Lady Sun, Voidless Realm's Empress originally wanted to marry my son into her family, but it was only recently that we found out that the Empress has an illegitimate daughter. What's wrong with someone else having a daughter? Sun Fong asked curiously. What a coincidence, the one that Voidless Realm's Empress snatched the Empress's goods. Everyone lowered their heads slightly and Jingshan continued. The Empress has always been known as holy and noble, and to be able to obtain the Empress's favor, we Ying family feel honored. However, the Empress actually has an illegitimate daughter. Not only did the Empress deceive the world, she even trampled on our Ying family's dignity. If that was really the case, we Ying family would have just endured it. However, the situation is different now. The Empress has trampled on his honor's face. Jingshan wasn't a fool, he knew that going against Voidless Realm would definitely cause them to suffer losses. However, if his honor were to make a move, it would only take a few minutes for his honor to make a move. With a light smile on her face, Sun Fong nodded her head. His honor won't bother about you 3 big shots and he won't make a move either. Lady Sun, you are mistaken. Everyone in Ying family listens to his honor's orders. Even if we want to make a move against Voidless Realm, we would still have to get his honor's permission. After all, we don't dare to mess with his honor's plans. Sun Fong nodded her head silently. What you said makes sense. I will report this matter to the higher-ups. Dou Fushi was about to faint. Sister-in-law was so imposing, so imposing. She had completely suppressed this group of high and mighty Ying family members, and they didn't even dare to raise their heads. If Dou Fushi were to know that Sun Fong possessed a command plate that could instantly destroy Ying family, he would understand why this group of people lowered their heads. Everyone's lives were in the hands of others. Not to mention lowering their heads, they had no choice but to kneel and lick their boots. Sun Fong waved her hand, indicating that you all can continue with your work. I won't be accompanying you all in this meeting. I might as well go back and recharge my money to play games. Then I can kill the demonic beasts a few more times. Lord Sun, this subordinate still has one more thing to report. Ying Jingshan took a step forward and hastily shouted. Sun Fong stopped in her tracks, but she didn't turn around. Speak. This matter was caused by the fight over the ancient godly item last time. The North is openly snatching the ancient godly item. Before Sun Fong finished speaking, Sun Fong had already walked towards the outside and said calmly, it is fine for you all to decide on this kind of small matter yourselves. His honor doesn't have the time to care about it. The corner of Ying family's relative's mouth twitched slightly. I have seen formidable people before, but I have never seen such formidable people before. If this is considered a small matter, then what is considered a big matter? Of course, it was a family conflict. After Sun Fong returned to the room, she told Death Mage about this matter. After hearing what Sun Fong said, Death Mage went silent for a moment. I heard from my master that his honor wants to cause a dispute between the North and the South as soon as possible. Regardless of whether it is the small matter or the big matter, his honor still wants to first seek his honor's opinion. Next, Death Mage sent the information to his honor via WeChat. Wei Chong immediately replied, don't send WeChat messages in the future, it is a waste of my data. Death Mage was greatly shocked and promised that he would report to his honor personally in the future. Yi Hua, who was currently watching the 2 adults and 2 children playing games in the room, heard that Wei Chong had something to report to him. Wei Chang's figure appeared very quickly. Kneeling down on one knee, Wei Chong shouted respectfully, subordinate pays respect to his honor. Yi Hua replied faintly as he took out a cigarette and lit it up. Sun Fong just sent news over. Wei Chong bowed slightly and said. Yi Hua puffed out a mouthful of smoke, then leaned against the window and signaled Wei Chong to continue speaking. Recalling the contents of Death Mage's report, Wei Chong said, the godly item that his honor subdued that day is one of the 3 big shots Ying family. These 3 big shots control the entire North and South, and Ying family belongs to the South. Yi Hua replied faintly, seemingly not in the mood to cause any trouble. Wei Chong knew that his honor was vexed, but he still had to continue reporting. This Ying family was originally going to have a marriage alliance with one of the big shots in the North. However, it seems that they were cheated and Ying family's face was completely lost. Thus, Ying family wanted to regain their face. Yi Hua said faintly, then we will try to curry favor with Ying family. However, we will not get involved in this matter. It is meaningless for us to fight with one side. Subordinate has already informed his honor, we will not get involved in their dispute. That's good then. I wonder if one of the 3 big shots would be replaced. If there is such a rule, then it would be fun. Yi Hua sneered. When I am vexed, only blood can calm me down. Wei Chong said respectfully, subordinate will go and ask his honor. Also, there is one more matter. Regarding the ancient godly item battle that happened last time, the South intends to take revenge. That's good then, this was originally my plan. Keep an eye on Xiao Yi's side, don't let him die, he is still useful. Yes. Subordinate has already left a trace of my aura on his Shenyuan sword so that his honor can have fun with it. Wei Chong said with a slight smile. Seems like what I did back then was correct. Since his honor is in a bad mood, he can only kill someone. I wonder who will be the unlucky one. Yi Hua had the same intention, not bad. Being able to share his honor's worries is subordinate's greatest honor. Yi Hua laughed lightly and patted onto Wei Chang's shoulder. How are you getting along with little Tang? It is still in the midst of planning. Wei Chong laughed dryly and said, I wonder when I will be able to push down Little Tang. Recently, Little Tang has been cooking soup for me frequently, and I am about to explode from drinking too much of it. Yi Hua sighed lightly and said, sometimes we have to learn from Lai Gu. There is no need to be so particular about it, just directly push down Little Tang. Although Lai Gu's method is convenient, it cannot be compared to his honor's method. How honorable is Madam? Naturally, she cannot be compared to ordinary human women. Conquering the body is easy, but conquering the heart is hard. Wei Chang's words hit Yi Hua's heart. Yi Hua laughed lightly. Wei Chong, you are still the one who understands my intentions well. Subordinate is also just stating facts. Wei Chong revealed a smile. His honor's praise is even more satisfying than killing someone. In the past, his honor always said that I am stupid, but now I am finally able to share his honor's worries. If Zhu Tian was here, he would definitely give the title of number 1 wisdom to you. A slight arc appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. It is still useful to think about happy things. Wei Chong said very modestly, subordinate's wisdom is not even half as good as Zhu Tian's, and it is even more inferior to his honors. Alright, go back and accompany your girlfriend. In the future, if there is nothing important, don't report to me anymore. My goal is just to make them fight each other. You all can do whatever you want. Chapter 203. Yi Hua took a look at the time. It's almost noon. I should go out and eat. Yi Hua walked into Qin Yutong's room and saw that the fight inside was in full swing. Yi Hua looked at his child, who was standing on the stool and twisting her little butt. Her hands were not even as big as a mouse. She was too cute. Uncle, come and play. Ollie will bring you to eat chicken. I guarantee that I won't steal your limelight. Dong Huangli turned her head around and shouted with a smile, revealing 2 cute dimples. Yi Hua had heard this sentence many times. Every time little Ollie would not keep her word. This bad habit of hers must have been learned from her mother. Xianxia laughed. Even your uncle is afraid of you. You always steal uncle's limelight. Ollie didn't do it on purpose. Are you going to let Ollie watch uncle's head explode in front of you? Dong Huangli pouted her little mouth and said, causing everyone to laugh. Yi Hua was also quite speechless. Being teased by my own child, however, Yi Hua did not get angry and said, Ollie, it's already noon. What do you want to eat? Ollie can just eat steamed buns. It will save uncle money. Hearing this, Qin Yutong felt her heart ache. Ollie, uncle and aunt have plenty of money. You can eat whatever you want. Really? On the way here, Ollie ate all of Uncle Green and Red's money, causing Uncle Green and Red to starve. Ollie doesn't want you two to starve too. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth and her eyes immediately turned red. Thinking up to here, Dong Huangli choked with sobs. Ollie will always harm people wherever she goes. Wu. Seeing this, Xianxia also felt her heart ache. She carried Dong Huangli in her embrace and comforted her. Ollie is really sensible, but sensible children shouldn't cry. But Ollie just can't hold it in. Dong Huangli nestled in Xianxia's embrace and said pitifully. Seeing how sad his child was, Yi Hua felt very upset. Just what kind of mother am I? How can I let my child suffer? If not for Ollie, I would definitely hang her up and beat her up, and let her know that as a mother I cannot let my child suffer. Yi Hua carried Dong Huangli and said gravely, Ollie, just tell me what you want to eat. I can let you eat anything in this world. Uncle, you are so good to Ollie. You are even better than mother. Dong Huangli hugged onto Yi Hua's neck and said. Hearing these words, Yi Hua felt very comfortable in his heart. However, when he thought about how Ollie's mother made Ollie kneel on the keyboard, he immediately became angry. Just you wait. At that time I, the Supreme Overlord, will also make you kneel on the keyboard. You dare to abuse my child? Yi Hua rubbed onto Dong Huangli's back, then said to everyone, let's go out and eat first. Everyone smiled and stood up. Xianxia asked her little sister in a low voice, Yutong, don't you feel that Yi Hua is very concerned about Ollie? Qin Yutong paused for a moment, then held onto her big sister's arm that was like a lotus root. It might be that brother-in-law likes children more, and adding on that big sister, the child in your stomach has not been born yet, so, Qin Yutong didn't know how to continue making up a story. Your yearning for Ollie has turned into an illness, and you are treating Ollie as your own child. Qin Yutong felt that this way of putting it should be fine. Xianxia wrinkled her brows. Really? Could it be fake? After all, little Ollie is so cute. Everyone loves her and cars have flat tires. Xianxia poked onto her little sister's forehead petulantly. You always have a lot of twisted logic, let's go. Qin Yutong let out a sigh of relief. Ever since that night when I saw brother-in-law display his might, know the law of acting cool. Qin Yutong felt that brother-in-law is not just an ordinary kind of awesome. How is it possible for such an awesome brother-in-law to be so concerned about an unfamiliar child? It is obviously impossible. The only possibility is that Ali is brother-in-law's child. Just by looking at brother-in-law's loving and caring look, it is clear that Ali is indeed brother-in-law's child. It is fortunate that big sister didn't notice it. However, if brother-in-law continues to hide it from me, when the truth comes out, will big sister be able to bear it? I'm truly worried. Everyone came downstairs and the green and red brothers could be seen holding onto a black pellet, and they were currently hesitating. Uncle Green, Uncle Red, Dong Huangli shouted out. Little brother Red was startled and the black pellet that was in his hand fell onto the ground, causing a layer of dust to fall onto it. However, little brother Red didn't despise the black pellet as he picked it up and placed it back into his pocket. The two of you come over as well. Yi Hua said faintly while carrying onto Dong Huangli. The green and red brothers were startled. Now that I know that this man is the boss of this shop, I reckon that he must be very rich. Let's go out and eat good food together. This is great. The two walked to the back of the line and chatted with each other in a low voice. Big brother, do you think that the pellet that Uncle Wei gave us is poison? Little brother Red had a very conflicted look on his face. Big brother Green let out a sigh. Uncle Wei said that this pellet can allow us to soar, but I keep feeling that. Big brother, don't you think that this pellet is too careless? I saw Uncle Wei touching around his crotch a few times before taking it out. It couldn't be. Little brother Red had a look of knowing the truth and he almost threw away the pellet. Sigh, I smelled it just now. It shouldn't be that kind of thing. Damn, big brother, you actually smelled it. Little brother Red had a surprised look on his face. Big brother Green raised his hand and slapped onto little brother Red's hand. Are you an idiot? I was smelling to see if it is poison or not. Big brother, can you even smell if it is poison? I am afraid that you will not be poisoned to death but will be suffocated to death. Little brother Red stretched out his hand and smelled the pellet. Just now it was my right hand that grabbed onto the pellet. Big brother Green was very annoyed. Forget it, I will decide if I want to eat it or not tonight. This black pellet is a good thing. To other people it is a treasure, but when it fell into the hands of the green and red brothers, they were hesitating. After all, the pellet was taken out from Wei Cheng's crotch. Who knows what it is? After everyone walked out of the alley, Qin Yutong said with a smile. Ollie, do you want to eat hot pot? There is a hot pot shop opposite of here and the taste of the hot pot is pretty good. Dong Huangli looked towards the direction of the hot pot shop, then immediately buried her head into Yi Hua's embrace. Ollie, don't go there. There is a bad guy over there. Ollie, what's wrong? Xianxia rubbed onto Dong Huangli's head and asked consolingly. Ollie doesn't like that hot pot shop, uncle. Can we not go there? Dong Huangli begged. This expression of hers made Yi Hua feel very sad. Yi Hua said gravely, the two of you come over here. The green and red brothers immediately walked over, feeling a bit nervous. Why doesn't Ollie want to go there? Yi Hua asked coldly. The green and red brothers took a look at each other and big brother Green said, Boss, yesterday we passed by that hot pot shop, but when the boss of that hot pot saw that our clothes were dirty and messy, he chased us away. My little brother and I went to the hot pot shop to argue with the boss, and in the end the boss of that hot pot shop chased us away. After arguing with the boss of that hot pot shop, Big Brother Green's choice of words was really sharp. Yi Hua finally understood what was going on and he asked Dong Huangli, who was in his embrace, Ollie, was it like this? Uncle, back then, Ollie was indeed dirty and messy and it affected other people's appetite. Dong Huangli's words made everyone feel uncomfortable. Chapter 204. My child was actually chased out of the restaurant by a puny human. When Yi Hua heard this news, his expression darkened. Seeing that Yi Hua's expression wasn't good, Dong Huangli pulled onto her collar and said, Uncle, don't be angry. Yi Hua said gravely, Ollie, be good, Uncle will teach you one thing today. Dong Huangli pursed her lips, then nodded her head and said, and Ollie will definitely study hard. Xianxia still didn't know about Yi Hua's theory and said hurriedly, Yi Hua, don't teach the child bad things. Yihua didn't pay attention to Dong Huangli and walked towards King Song Residence's hot pot restaurant. Yizizi and the green and red brothers followed closely behind. Big sister, let's go. Qing Yutong shouted lightly. Qing Ye sighed lightly, then followed behind Yihua. When they arrived at King Song Residence's hot pot restaurant, Yihua paused for a moment. I feel that something is wrong. Before they even entered the restaurant, they could already hear the customers scolding. What's wrong with your restaurant? Why did the taste of the soup change? That's right. What kind of bullshit taste is this? Ask your boss to come out. F***K, you are using this kind of thing to fool people. The restaurant is bullying the customers. Yihua knew what was wrong. The number of customers was decreasing. In the past, there would be a queue outside the restaurant at noon. However, today there was no such situation, and there was actually a customer who said that the soup did not taste good. Big brother, when we came yesterday there was a long queue outside the restaurant. Why is there no one here today? Little brother Red said confusedly as he looked around. Big brother Green raised his hand and slapped. Idiot, don't you know that people in the city like to hire actors? At this moment, a man who was wearing a suit hurriedly walked down the stairs and arrived in front of those customers who were clamoring. Everyone, what's the matter? What matter? Have a taste, is this even something that humans eat? The man said embarrassedly, I am really sorry, I just took over this restaurant today. If the taste is not good, I will immediately ask the chef to change it. Treat today's meal as my treat free of charge. K, who cares? Those customers said in disdain, then picked up the food and left, leaving the restaurant in an instant. The man sighed and shook his head. Big brother Green said gravely, the one who worked yesterday was a little fat. Big brother, didn't you notice that everyone in this shop has changed? Little brother Red sized up the shop for a bit, and all of the waitresses that he saw yesterday have changed. The two of them looked at each other. Ignoring the surprised look of the boss, they rushed into the kitchen and came out after a while. C, even the chef has been changed. Little brother Red found it hard to believe. Those chefs yesterday were all fat and today they were all skinny. Could it be that they lost 100 kilograms in a single night? The boss walked to the front of Yihua and said with a smile, Everyone, what do you want to eat? After finished speaking, the boss felt a bit embarrassed. Is it him? Yihua asked gravely. Dong Huangli shook her head. Uncle, he is not that bad, uncle. Yihua asked coldly, where is the original boss? The boss sat on the stool weakly. Sigh, this is really a big loss. I am asking about your original boss. Yihua shouted out lightly. Dong Huangli hurriedly said, Uncle, don't be angry, being angry will harm your body. Yihua patted onto Dong Huangli's back. Uncle, don't be angry. Uncle, you're such a good boy. The boss stood up and sighed. How would I know where he went? I only took over last night. He promised to give me the correct recipe. I tried it back then and it tasted the same. But when we opened for business at noon today, the taste changed. He left one table after another. I'm so angry. Big brother Green walked to the front of Yihua and said in a low voice, Boss, all of the employees here have been changed. The hot pot restaurant's boss said angrily, Liar. I am going to call the police. Yihua took a deep breath and walked out of the hot pot restaurant. Looking at the small alley that was on the opposite side of the road, if I stand on the third floor of the hot pot restaurant, I should be able to see my room on the second floor of Leisure Bar. Looking around, other than this restaurant that opened a restaurant, the other restaurants were all selling clothes. Yihua. Xianxia called out tenderly. Yizizi changed from her usual mischievous attitude and said solemnly, Big brother, we are being monitored. Xianxia looked at Yizizi in shock. Why do I feel that Yizizi is even more mature than me? When the green and red brothers heard what Yizizi said, they almost peed in their pants. What does that mean? Being monitored? I am a wanted criminal, could it be that? They are also wanted criminals. K, did I just barge into a bandit's den? Ollie, let's go and eat at McDonald's, okay? Yihua didn't say anything and said to Dong Huangli, who was in his embrace. Dong Huangli nodded her head. As expected, no matter where I go, I will be harming people. Everyone arrived at McDonald's and Yizizi returned back to her abnormal state, causing Xianxia to feel dizzy. The green and red brothers were finally able to enjoy the taste of fried chicken drumsticks. Although Yi Hua was teasing Dong Huangli, he was already contacting Wei Chong. Your Honor. Wei Chong, do you still remember when that King Song Mansion's hot pot restaurant was opened? It should have been opened not long after Your Honor opened Leisure Bar. It should be around 2 months later. Your Honor is asking about this. Is there anything that I can help you with? We have been monitored for a very long time. Wei Chong cried out in surprise. Wei Chong said gravely, Your Honor, leave this matter to subordinate to handle. No need, the supreme overlord, like this kind of surprise. If everything is just a routine, then it would be meaningless. I would like to see what kind of surprise the other party can give me. Subordinate is thinking too much. After cutting off the contact with Wei Chong, Yi Hua thought to himself. Seems like I have finally met a decent opponent. Since 4 years ago, the people that I have been monitoring are all humans. Not bad. Unique way of thinking. If not for Ali's appearance, they would have continued monitoring us. Suddenly Yi Hua thought of a possibility. Why did they suddenly retreat? Could it be that they know about my relationship with Ali? They know that I am coming over to take revenge? That's why they retreated overnight. Cunning humans, this time I will use my brain to play with you all and make you all sincerely convinced. Also, these 2 green and red fur brothers have pretty good vigilance. Since they are able to protect Ali during the journey, I will let them continue to protect Ali's safety. After all, it is indeed not good for my child to not have a few bodyguards by his side. But their attire, Xianxia, give them some money and buy some clothes. Yi Hua said lightly. If others were to find out that they are my subordinates, wouldn't they laugh at me for not having money? Xianxia nodded her head. The clothes that they are wearing are indeed a bit. At this moment, Big Brother Green wiped his mouth and said nervously, Boss, I have something that I want to talk to you about. Yi Hua drank a mouthful of Sprite, then said faintly, Speak. Big Brother Green said hurriedly, Yesterday, us 2 brothers brought Ali along to look for you all. We went to a bar and that bar owner actually wanted to capture Ali. I reckon that the bar owner seems to be a human trafficker. Luckily we managed to run away and the bar owner even sent people to chase after us. That's right, that woman is a bad person and there was even a man with her. Little Brother Red added. Dong Huangli placed down the bone in her hand and said, If it wasn't for Uncle Green and Uncle Red, Ali would have been captured and sold away yesterday. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.